Hello. Hi. What's bobbin? Hi Biggs, hi Stormy, hi Bryce, hi Zen, hi Ma, hi Suike. Hey yo, what's up Gucci? Hi Kaito. Hi Annie. Hi Drax. How are you today? I'm tired. I have so much work to do, even at home. Hey yo, what's bobbin? I am so tired. I wanted to maybe finish Dragon's Dogma today, but unfortunately for me, I have some paperwork to do. Um and stuff. So, and I'm like, well, fuck. I also wanted to stream. So, your sleep schedule's fucked? You're not gonna blame me, are you? You're not gonna blame me, are you? Did you finish the keyboard? No. I emailed support and I sent them a video of my board not fitting right. Hi, Sawyer. Not fucked just because of finals? Damn. I'm sure you'll be fine. So, while I do some paperwork, what if we watch some more Reddit stories on the side and I totally won't be distracted today? Maybe. And I just have to finish the stack of paperwork and then I can I can be a bit more productive, I think. Maybe. Where's my pen? Music's loud. Fell asleep today? Doing one doesn't really matter. I skip a lot of classes these days. My senioritis is acting up very, very much. Does this ruin your sleep? Do not ruin your sleep to watch me. Make sure you get enough sleep because I know you work a lot, Biggs. Hi, Zyla. Or Zille. Whatever you prefer, let me know. It died, no alarm. You woke up early anyways. That's the curse of a schedule. How are you today? Peepo tired. Meow's so cute, as per usual. Cat reveal? I used to have a cat. I don't have one no more. I hope I can get a new one when I move out. Okay. I found a story. Do you have a dog? No. Uh, systems tell me I've been missing something. Ah, okay. You know what? You're an adult. You know you're the best for yourself. So I will leave it to you. Yeah. So make sure you sleep whenever you're sleepy, though. Okay. Mm-mm. Okay. While I do my paperwork, I saw this Reddit story has been recommended to me like so much. So like we gotta watch it, right? What are we doing today? If you were here yesterday, I spent a lot of the stream watching this Reddit story that was really addicting, and I was like, wait, I want to do that again. And yeah, so I'm gonna do that again while doing my paperwork, and then whatever happens, if I have time afterwards, if I do my paperwork pretty fast, um, I will play some games. Otherwise, meh. Better sleep again, but you shouldn't. You can sleep. Let your body sleep when it wants to sleep. Got a part 2 teaser. Oh, I saw someone talk about that earlier. Hi, Rice. Okay, he cooked yesterday. It was quite the cook for sure. Okay. I think I can use this one. Yeah, this one should be okay. Shouldn't be bad. Confused. Got me. Got me. Look at this one. Wait, I'm gonna zoom in so we can see all of it. Now this one's also pretty spicy. This one, I saw this and I'm like, wait, this is pretty good, no? Good enough. Oh shit, how big can I make it? Like that? Let's watch this together while I do my paperwork. Groom's ex crashed our wedding, so I left him at the altar. Now his parents wants to buy me a house to fix his mistake, but he demands I give it to him since he's homeless. Like, whoa. Wow. Okay. I'm doing paperwork. Surely this entertains you guys enough, right? Where's the sound? Oh.
Groom's ex crashed our wedding, so I left him at the altar. Now his parents want to buy me a house for fix his mistake, but he demands I give it to him since he's homeless.
LOL.
Hi. So I was supposed to get married last month, but that ended up not happening because my ex-fiancé
like 90%
Scott
of these
is
are
an idiot.
fake, but
And
I
now
love
he's
this shit.
driving me crazy because his parents want to buy me a house to compensate for his idiotic behavior, and he thinks that I shouldn't accept it. I don't understand what to do now. For context, Scott and I are both 25. We met in college and have been together since graduation. He didn't ask me out before, even though we had a back and forth flirtation thing going on ever since we became friends in our second semester. However, after we graduated, he finally worked up the courage to ask me out and I said yes. After dating for a couple of years, he proposed to me last year and I said yes. He and I have had a perfect relationship and I didn't think anything could possibly go wrong, but man, was I wrong. Before me, Scott had been with only one other woman, and that was his childhood sweetheart. Let's call her Caroline. I had never personally met her, but I had seen a couple of photos of her from his high school yearbooks. They had been voted best couple when they graduated, and it made sense because they had been together since middle school. He never spoke about her, but I did get to know from a couple of his friends that they had been inseparable while they were growing up. They had been best friends when they were in elementary school, which turned into a relationship by middle school, and by the time they were in high school, they were actually planning to get married. Unfortunately, it didn't work for them because Caroline's father wanted her to go to business school in New York, which was really far away. They tried to make things work and continue the long-distance relationship, but they couldn't, and it led to a lot of fighting. So they broke up a few months after college started. I didn't know about any of this until much later because Scott introduced me to his school friends after we had already been together for 3 months. I did find it weird that he hadn't mentioned anything about Caroline when we first started dating, because it felt like a pretty significant thing to skip telling me since they had been together for so long and even had plans to get married after college.
True.
Also, the fact that they had broken up in the first year of college, and by then, Scott and I were already friends and did have a bit of a cute little flirtatious thing going on. I had no idea he was struggling with a breakup at the time. Even after we started dating, he didn't tell me anything about Caroline. And since he had deleted all photos of her from his social media, I couldn't find out about her myself either while I was stalking him before we started dating.
Stalking
I don't
him?
think
Wait,
his school
what?
friends would have mentioned
Do people normally do that?
dating. He didn't tell me anything about Ken. Scott and I were already friends and did have a bit of a cute little flirtatious thing going on. I had no idea he was struggling with a breakup at the time. Even after we started dating, he didn't tell me anything about Caroline. And since he had deleted all photos of her from his social media, I couldn't find out about her myself either while I was stalking him before we started dating.
People do that much? Really? Actually, that makes sense, huh? Have you guys ever stalked someone before you, like, because you're interested in them? Not even, like stalk their socials? Not stalk, but, like, stalking socials. Where are my pens at? What the hell? I feel like I used to do something like that now that I'm thinking about it. Like, I would be interested in a guy, and then I found his Instagram and I would try to see if he's taken, cuz you know, you don't want to make moves on a guy that's taken. That's a bit weird. Watch the gameplay. Honestly, the parkour goes pretty crazy a lot.
I don't think his school friends would have mentioned Caroline either, but one of them slipped up. The day I learned about her had also been the day of our first big fight as a couple, so I remember it quite clearly, obviously. It had been his birthday and he had invited all his school friends over so he could introduce me to them and we could have dinner together. I had already met his family, and since we were in college together, I knew that group of friends as well. These were the only people who didn't know me, so we hosted a special dinner on the day of his birthday for them to get to know me, but it was actually I who got to know Scott better that day. While we had been talking after dinner, Scott left the room to attend a call from a relative since his friends were making a lot of noise to mess with him, just like guys do. Once he was outside, one of his friends mentioned that he was pleased to see that he and I were so happy together because he genuinely hadn't expected Scott to ever be able to move on from Caroline.
What the fuck?
I had been caught off guard when he said that because at the time, I had no idea who she was, and they realized that immediately after I made a face and asked who that was. They tried to brush it off, but the cat was already out of the bag and I pushed them to tell me who they had been talking about. So they were forced to tell me about Caroline and her history with Scott. They probably knew that they had messed up and tried to cover it up by making it seem like no big deal, but as soon as I heard that Caroline and Scott had been together since middle school and had plans to go to college together, I knew that this was a big deal and I had to confront Scott about it after his friends left. Everyone had sobered up by the time Scott came back to the room and cleared out quickly afterward. Once everyone was gone, I decided to bring Caroline up and ask Scott why was this the first that I heard about her, because it seemed to me like he was trying to cover up a very important part of his life and hide it from me. I could tell at the time that he was very uncomfortable talking about this because he kept saying that it was no big deal and tried to downplay the significance of that relationship. He tried to convince me that Caroline had meant nothing to him and that it had just been a stupid high school relationship, which he had completely moved on from. But I didn't buy it because I was hurt that he hadn't told me anything about this woman. I insisted that he tell me everything because it was important for me to know, but he didn't think that Caroline had anything to do with our relationship and refused to talk about her.
That's also fair.
When I kept pushing him, he snapped at me and told me to mind my own business.
What the hell?
So that led to our first big fight, and I ended up spending the night at a friend's place because he had been simply horrible that day. He had told me that it wasn't his job to make me feel less insecure, especially when it came to a past relationship that he didn't even want to discuss.
Damn.
He completely glossed over the fact that he had kept this a secret from me for no real reason and made it all about me and my issues, saying that I was getting insecure over a past relationship from high school, and it showed.
Okay, to be fair, on one hand, the guy's kind of right. Like, if he didn't see the point in telling her, because like he wants to be over it and he wants to be focused on the current relationship, makes sense that he wouldn't like really tell her. But also, if she's like, if your girl is like, even if she's insecure, what's the issue with telling her about someone you're supposedly over? Of course you'd be suspicious, you know what I mean? So like, one hand and the other, I don't know. I see it both ways. I don't know.
That I had a lack of trust in this relationship, so it was insulting to him. He somehow convinced me that I was getting upset for no reason and that the only reason he hadn't told me about Caroline was because he knew that I would react exactly the way that I did and get upset because he had been with her for a long time. But I would refuse to believe him if he said that it didn't mean anything to him anymore and kept feeling jealous and insecure about her. He played it quite cleverly, and a few days after the fight, I started to think that I had probably made a bigger deal out of it than what was necessary and blown it all out of proportion.
Ooh, she got
So I
gaslit.
apologized to him and he forgave me as long as I promised him that I wouldn't bring Caroline up again. He told me that the reason he didn't want to talk about her was because she was really clingy and annoying, and it was embarrassing for him to talk about her because it just reminded him that he had wasted so many years of his life with her. And he didn't want to waste more time talking about her when he was with me now. So I promised him that I wouldn't bring her up again, and we decided to move on from that fight. I did meet his school friends several times after that, and Caroline only ever came up once because I guess he had probably instructed them all not to talk about her around me ever again.
Damn.
The last time that I heard about her was just a couple of weeks after the fight, and I had run into the friend who had mentioned Caroline the first time that we met at the grocery store. He told me that Scott had told them about the fight that we had, and he felt like he needed to apologize for it because it wasn't his place to say anything about his relationships, past or present. And he felt bad for causing a fight between us. He told me that I had nothing to worry about, especially if it was about Caroline. Irrespective of the length of their relationship, he had never seen Scott as happy with her as he had been with me.
Aww.
He probably said it in order to do damage control, but I bought it, and it made me feel really happy because this meant that whatever Scott had said about him having completely moved on from Caroline was true, and the reason he was so secretive when it came to her was actually because of what he had stated and not because he was still in love with her or whatever. And that was pretty much the last time anybody ever brought Caroline up.
Okay,
His family
nice.
knew better than to talk about her around me, and his friends had learned their lesson, so I never heard about her again. And a few months later, I had forgotten about that
She's
episode
low-key
entirely.
flaming the friends
We
for
went on
being
with our
idiots.
lives afterwards, and things were simply great between us. We did have a few ups and downs like every other couple, but it was nothing out of the ordinary, and I didn't have any second thoughts about marrying him. But I guess I should have, because our marriage ended up not taking place because of Caroline, ironically. So I guess I should have taken her more seriously instead of being overly confident in the strength of our relationship. Things had been great even up until the morning of the wedding, and Scott had been as happy as I had ever seen him. There was literally no way that I, or literally anyone, could have predicted what was about to happen. I had even walked down the aisle and he was about to say his vows when any bride's worst nightmare happened. Caroline came running through the entrance and demanded that we stop the ceremony and that she couldn't let this take place, especially when she knew that Scott was her soulmate. I knew what Caroline looked like. I had seen her before in the yearbook photos, and I had wished that I would never have to see her in real life because I couldn't imagine any happy circumstances that would lead to us meeting. I was in shock and I froze up there at the altar, as did Scott and everyone else who was present there. We didn't have any security measures in place because this was supposed to be a really private and intimate ceremony, and there were really not many guests who knew about this anyway, so hiring a security team didn't seem like a priority. We were also having this ceremony on Scott's uncle's property, which wasn't open to the public and most people didn't know about.
Yeah, how'd she get in here?
I regretted all of that later, once I realized that the wedding wasn't going to happen. But while I was standing there at the altar and waiting for someone to say something, the only thing that I could think of was that Scott was obviously going to kick her out, and he wouldn't entertain this because in the past, he had made it very clear that he didn't like her. So you guys can probably imagine how horrified I was when, instead of telling her to get out, Scott actually started talking to her about how she had managed to find us because we hadn't exactly publicized the details of our wedding.
True.
He seemed to have forgotten about the vows altogether and was just having a conversation with her while everybody looked confused.
Weird.
The two of them completely ignored me, and she started confessing her love to him at our wedding.
Bro.
She told him that she had found out about the wedding because she had still been in touch with a couple of his friends from school, and they had just casually mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. She told Scott that she had never stopped loving him, but she didn't come back all those years because their breakup had been really bitter and she had been waiting for him to come around. When she heard that he had started dating me, she thought she was going to give up on him, but after she learned that we were about to get married, she realized that she couldn't let this happen because then she would regret it for the rest of her life. The only reason she had even been late to the ceremony was because of the traffic, and she had actually intended on reaching about an hour before the ceremony was about to begin and talk to him in person. But that hadn't been possible, and so she had to interrupt the wedding after it had already started. She told him that she loved him and always had, and now it was up to him if he wanted to work things out with her, but if he was sure about me, then she would leave the ceremony and we could all pretend like this never happened.
True.
This discussion had been happening right in front of me. And strangely enough, since he was actually entertaining it, nobody knew whether to kick her out or just to let them talk. When Caroline said that she would leave if Scott was sure about me, I thought that he was finally going to tell her to go away because the opportunity to do so was right there, and I was actually willing to forgive him even up until that point. But instead of saying that he was sure of me and was going to go ahead with the wedding, he started arguing with her instead of just doing the normal thing.
Bro!
He told her that she had been unfair to him by attending a different college and breaking up with him because that had never been part of the plan, and now she was here confusing him, just because she hadn't been able to make up her own mind. He accused her of being selfish and never thinking about his feelings, and Caroline apologized for it and tried to tell him that she would change. By then, almost 10 minutes had passed since she interrupted the ceremony, and I had come back to my senses. They were having a full-blown conversation about the past, and I realized that this was turning into all about them. I was nothing but a supporting character by that point. I felt incredibly hurt that Scott was entertaining this conversation instead of just showing her out, and all eyes were on them now. Even my parents and my bridesmaids were frozen to their spots because they didn't know what to do, and I can't even blame them for it because everything that was happening was just so strange.
Facts.
I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to walk away instead because it had become increasingly clear to me that no matter what Scott said, he still did have some feelings for Caroline and had been playing me like a fool all along. Even as I started walking away from the altar, he didn't try to stop me and only said that he would get back to me when he had dealt with the situation at hand and that I could go wait in my hotel room until he had sorted things out here. Once I was inside my room, I completely broke down because it was insane to me that instead of kicking her out of the venue, Scott was actually trying to talk to her and making it all.
Scott's such an idiot. What? Does this happen at your wedding? I feel like you would secretly love it even though your day might be ruined. Okay. Look, I only enjoy it if it's not about me, but if it's about me, I'd be like, what the hell? You know what I mean? If I have a question, this girl, she has a boyfriend, I wait for them to break up and then snatch her? Well, you know what they say. If she's single, it's 1 versus 6 billion. But if she's taken, it's a 1v1. Good luck, buddy. And I'm joking, by the way. Please don't be weird, okay?
Worse than it already was. My wedding day was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but because of Scott and Caroline, it turned into a complete nightmare, something straight out of a badly made rom-com. And as it turns out, I was not the leading character here. I was the idiot who gets dumped on her wedding day because the guy is still in love with his ex, but I had been too blind and stupid to realize it earlier. While I was having a breakdown in my room, my parents and my bridesmaids came by a little later, maybe 15 minutes after I left, and told me that they had left the venue because Scott and Caroline were still talking and had excused themselves to have a private conversation before they returned to the ceremony.
I
couldn't believe it and started crying again because at that point, there was just no hope and I knew that I wasn't going to get married that day. My parents told me that they had told all the guests from our side of the family to go home and then come up to my room because they didn't think that the wedding was going to happen.
Hey yo, Gucci, thanks for the bride. Welcome back. My slightly bigger than average mignon. Wait, mods are longer, right? Okay, if the tier 3s are slightly bigger, the mods are longer. So welcome back, my slightly longer than average mignon. Very good. Very good.
They suggested that they take me home with them because this was quite insulting for everyone, and I said yes to that. So instead of waiting for Scott to be done with his conversation with Caroline and finally come to talk to me, I decided to go back home with my parents. My bridesmaids very graciously offered to take care of the situation with the guests so that I could deal with this on my own, and within an hour, I had packed up my things and was heading back home with my parents. I kept crying throughout the car ride while my mother tried to comfort me, but even then, some small part of me was hoping that maybe Scott would call me and ask me to come back, or he would beg me for forgiveness and then we could still get married, because I refused to believe that this was happening to me right now. However, he didn't try to reach out to me until the evening, and that was only to explain to me that he had decided not to get married or to get back with Caroline. Because he felt like neither of those options were suitable for him right now, and he needed to be alone for a while so he could sort out how he felt about both of us inside his own head before he came to a conclusion. So all of that had been for nothing, eventually. In the text, he told me that he had been talking to Caroline for a really long time and they had discussed everything that had been left unsaid during their breakup. In doing so, he realized that maybe he hadn't completely moved on from her, which is why it had been so difficult for him to talk about her, but now he couldn't run away from his feelings anymore. And he didn't think that it was fair to me, so he was breaking things off with both of us until he was clear about what he felt. He mentioned that his parents were going to take care of all the expenses so I didn't have to worry about any of it, and then he said that he was terribly sorry for whatever had happened and for ruining what was supposed to be a beautiful day. He said that he hoped that I could forgive him someday, but until then, he felt that we should take some time apart. When I read that text, I swear I started crying so hard that I almost threw up because I was devastated. I actually felt physically ill for the next couple of days and couldn't even go back to my house, so I had to stay with my parents while they nursed me back to health. Scott's parents handled everything and were actually pretty nice to me because they reached out to me a few days after the day of the wedding and apologized to me for what their son had done. They told me that they were really ashamed of everything that had happened and were willing to do whatever it took to make it up to me. But I couldn't ask anything of them because this wasn't their fault.
True.
They were really decent people and Scott's behavior was all about him. They had nothing to do with that. So that was it, and once the wedding vendors had been paid off, I decided to take a break and just sort of process everything that had happened. Because it's not every day that you spend months planning a wedding with a man that you love, only to have it ruined by his ex-girlfriend. I can joke about it now because it's been almost a month and I have been talking about this in therapy and trying to work out my feelings. But it still hurts. I have no idea what Scott had been up to because I had deactivated all my socials and blocked him from everywhere after I had replied to his text and told him that I was making it easier for him to decide between me and Caroline by removing myself from the equation, and now, he didn't have to choose anymore. After sending that message, I blocked him and he didn't try to reach out to me after that. However, a few weeks ago his parents paid me a visit and told me that they had come into a lot of money because his dad had just made CEO, and that came with a significant pay raise. So now they wanted to buy me a place of my own, which they had been planning to do anyway. It was originally supposed to be a wedding gift for me and Scott, but now it was going to be a gift to me to make up for whatever had happened.
Okay, you know what?
I've been living with my parents ever since the day of the wedding because the house that I used to live in earlier was one that Scott and I had leased out together, and I was afraid that if I went back, then I would run into him, and I didn't want that. My bridesmaids had been the ones to pack all my things and bring them back home for me a week after the day of the wedding. And they had told me that the house had been completely empty when they showed up there, so they knew that Scott hadn't been around and had left with his things before me. I had spoken to the landlord and he had also confirmed that Scott had backed out of the arrangement and now I was his only tenant, so I told him about whatever had happened and said that I wouldn't be coming back because it was just really difficult for me to return to our home. And I couldn't move back for practical reasons as well.
True.
The rent would be too high for me to pay by myself. So right now I have nowhere else to go, and I also know that I can't live with my parents indefinitely. And if his parents were nice enough to offer, then I don't see any reason for me to reject it.
True.
But Scott found out about this somehow and has since started hounding me from different phone numbers to try and pressure me into rejecting them because he is apparently homeless now and has been living in his car for the past few weeks.
What?
He believes that he is entitled to the house and that I should tell his parents no so that they approach him instead. He hasn't explained anything to me like how he ended up homeless and living in his car or why he isn't on speaking terms with his parents anymore and claims that it's none of my business. But he keeps saying that I can't accept the offer because he needs a house more than me right now and it would be really selfish of me to say yes. I really want a place of my own and I don't think that there is anything wrong with me accepting his parents' offer. Wibta, if I let my ex-fiancé's parents buy me a house while he's homeless? Update 1. Okay, so I told Scott that I wasn't going.
Ooh, we got some updates. Hi, Crouch. Oh, distraction. Fuck. Right. Okay. Wait. I'm not even doing my paperwork. Uh-oh. Wait. Hold up. I need to get a new pen. And then we continue. I got so distracted. This story got me going. Hi, Perch. Okay. Got a new pen.
Going to give him the benefit of the doubt unless he told me the truth about how he ended up homeless. And he finally confesses to me that after the day of the wedding, he decided to resign from his job and go off for some soul searching. He didn't even wait for the 2 weeks and just took off. He ended up spending a week in the Japanese islands and blew through a lot of his money. He didn't keep in touch with anyone for that 1 week, not even his parents. He had been expecting his parents to help him out by letting him live with them when he came back, but they were obviously really angry because he had disappeared without a word and hadn't even bothered to give them an explanation. But now he expected them to help him out just because he was back. So they got into a big fight and he told them that he didn't need their help, but he soon realized that he had no place to go since he had ended his lease for our old place and he couldn't count on his parents.
This guy's an idiot.
He could get a new apartment, but that would take some time and he didn't have a stable income right now, so he also had to look for jobs. He couldn't live with any of his friends either because he had fought with them as well after the day of the wedding, for being loose-lipped around Caroline and telling her about the details of the wedding, and none of them were talking to him anymore. So he had no one at the moment, but thankfully he heard about his parents' offer to me from his father's realtor. That guy didn't know about the wedding falling through and had contacted him to ask what kind of house he was looking for because he had assumed that when Scott's father told him to start preparing a list of potential properties, he was probably referring to the wedding gift that they had discussed earlier. And so he had reached out to Scott, which is how he found out that his father was buying a house, and he knew that it was for me because his father had told his realtor to look for places near my workplace.
He is a scumbag.
It was actually quite impressive because it must have taken him a lot of detective work to come to that conclusion, but now that I knew the truth and all my questions had been answered, I had no use for him anymore. So I disconnected the call once he was done talking and blocked that number as well. It was a really mean thing to do, but I don't care. What he did to me was far worse than this pettiness, so now I have a free pass for everything. Update 2. I finally reached out to Scott's parents and I told them that I was ready to accept their offer because I really felt like I deserved it. I also told them about Scott's homelessness and they told me that they were ready to help him out as soon as he came to his senses and apologized to them. But if he couldn't own up to his mistakes, then there's not much that they could do for him. And I agree with them. It's about time that he learns to clean up his own messes. He has been trying to contact me ever since I hung up on him the last time, but that door is closed now. I hope he realizes that and stops wasting his own time because it's pretty embarrassing. Update 3. Hi, it's been a couple of weeks since the last update and I have officially moved into my new house. Scott's parents and my parents were all great help, and I recently even hosted a housewarming party where everyone was invited, including my guests from the wedding, because I wanted everyone to have a nice time since they had all been really gracious and helpful in the aftermath of the wedding fiasco. Everyone congratulated me because I seem to be doing a lot better than the last time they saw me, and I really am. I feel a lot better now.
She knows
As for Scott, I don't really know what he is up to. A couple of my friends told me after some online stalking that he has moved in with Caroline, or at least that's what it looks like from the social media. Because he is definitely living in a woman's house, that's for sure, given the feminine decor and everything. But I don't care now, it doesn't matter to me. He can live wherever he wants to as long as it's far away from me.
True. Is that it? Harley, that's it? Oh my god, there's so many. My entitled family wants to take my house and give it to my brother, even though they kicked me out of their home because they had no space for me. My sister-in-law tried to sabotage my pregnancy because she is jealous. Parents lied about a medical emergency to steal my 15K wedding fund to fund Golden Child's honeymoon. I married in secret and bankrupted them. Ooh, a lot of these are so good though. I love the affair stories the most. What if I have everything I owe? Fiance ghosted me on our wedding, ran off with his ex who moved in with my parents who are now calling him the son they never had. What? My fiance wanted an open relationship. Meow, 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 meow. Sister-in-law announced her pregnancy at my anniversary party knowing I've been struggling to conceive. Now her husband's divorcing her over it and she's begging me for help. Ooh. I want to do the divorce, the secret affair
Surprised
stuff.
my cheating wife with divorce papers at her secret hotel getaway affair.
Old
Hello,
Jerry Springer
guys.
episodes, LOL.
I hope you are all doing well. This is a pretty long and messed up story. Sorry for any errors.
This one is
as I am writing
33
on my phone,
minutes. Ooh.
I've come to the end of my rope and have no idea how to navigate this mess. A bit of background. I am 43, and my SOF, 40, have been married for 16 years. We have 2 kids, 14-year-old daughter and 9-year-old son. Our marriage was very rocky in the beginning, but we made it through those tough years and had come out much better from it. We married young, so maturity wasn't all there yet, but we knew we loved each other and could conquer an obstacle that comes between our marriage. I'm still not sure whether this was wishful thinking. Anyway, my wife is a manager of a very big advertisement company for 3 years, and I'm in engineering, 7 years. Both our jobs pay well and gave our family a pretty good lifestyle. We were a very tight-knit family. We always make sure as parents that we were there for our kids to create great memories. No matter how busy we got, we always made time for our kids. Honestly, I consider myself a good dad and husband. I messed up sometimes when it came to my wife, but I did anything for this woman and it honestly shocked me to my core when I found out that she was in a long-term affair. Which brings me to discovery. Wife was acting distant. In fact, the last 2 years before this one were the hardest. She just didn't seem to like anything I did. She kept comparing me to her boss. Yes, I know now, and would always tell me how he would handle this or that. Can't read her mind. Well, her boss can. Don't take initiative to take her out on dates and make her feel special?
What?
Well, her boss does that for his wife. Why was I so immature? I would ask what she wanted me to do to spice up our love life. Her answer usually is, don't ask. You need to already know and do it.
I mean,
so I
honestly,
researched,
true.
brought books. You know, since I was clueless, someone else had to have the answer. Anything I attempted was met with either half-hearted appreciation or bitter disappointment. My wife was never like this in the years I've known her. So I thought that inability to make her happy was something I seriously needed to fix. Little did I know it wasn't me who was doing the fixing the entire time.
Ooh.
We were very close to her boss and his wife. They also have kids, and the kids loved each other. We brought them to our barbecues, family outings to the park, game days at the arcade. They have been to our house numerous times and we've been to Therese. It's no surprise that we became close. I would confide in her boss about our marital problems. He gave me good advice. I thought he was a swell guy. Anyway, back to the discovery. I had grown emotionally tired from wife's demands to better myself where the marriage was done. I was honestly shocked with her attitude because before all this, I thought we had a great marriage. So one night she was busy laughing and giggling while texting someone. I was next to her in bed and was curious. The moment I leaned my head to take a peek, she viciously pulled away from me. She was angry instantly, asking me what I was doing.
John.
I told her I wanted to see what the joke was and she told me it was none of my business and retreated to the bathroom.
What the
I
hell?
think that's the day when I just knew deep down that there was an affair of sorts going on. I did not have proof, though. I made the mistake of asking her directly the next day. She was furious and denied any wrongdoing. I did not have access to her phone, but I wanted the truth terribly. I asked for her phone and she refused. Only later during the night did she grudgingly give me the phone. Almost every text message she sent to specific people were deleted. I could tell because some conversations seemed inconsistent and others downright ridiculous. I gave her the phone back and we did not speak of it until a month later when I was able to get a buddy on it to check the phone and recover deleted texts. My wife had gotten another phone prior and hardly used the one she handed to me. Some texts were recovered and it was through bits and pieces that I finally had proof that there was an affair going on, and you already guessed it, with her boss. I just knew if I confronted her then and there she would find some way to weasel out of it. So I bid my time. I was a wreck though. All I could think about is how it was going to affect the kids. The situation was horrible and I cried in front of my buddy.
The kids are always the
I
biggest
still did
loser
not want to give up
in
the
an
marriage,
affair.
so 3 days later I bought How to Help Your Spouse Heal from an Affair. It's okay if you're shaking your head. I started reading, hoping that if I gave it to my wife she would stop this nonsense.
What the
I wanted
fuck?
my wife back and I wanted to save the marriage.
I
I had planned on
This
talking
guy's
to
an
her on that
idiot.
Saturday to work things out, but she had told me they had an emergency at work and not to wait up on her. Of course, I contacted the workplace on the day to confirm the story she gave me and received no answer. They were not open on Saturdays.
Ooh.
I tried her phone but no answer. She came back home at 2 in the morning on Sunday and immediately showered and then came to bed. I asked why she was late and she dodged the question by saying that she already told me not to wait for her. I was sick of this. I did not give her the book I brought. I was suffering and she didn't care. She saw me suffering and didn't care. I contacted her boss's wife to find out from her if she knew anything. I was so desperate for stability and to this day I don't regret doing that. She was as shocked as I was when finding out. She wanted to confront her husband, but I told her he will probably lie and try to hide it better like my wife did.
Damn.
We met at her house to discuss what was going on, and I gave her the little proof that we had. She wanted more evidence. So we both decided to gather evidence on each of our sides and compare them. I started snooping on my wife more, and she did the same with her husband. It was very easy on her end to find undeniable proof. Her husband was so arrogant that he didn't even delete the texts on his phone between him and my wife, and the little texts I found earlier finally made sense, and we had a whole picture of how long the affair was. 2 years.
2 years.
The bosses
Your work? I'm working on it, okay? It's happening. 2 years! My goodness. It'd be so funny if this dude and the cheater's wife got together.
His wife was livid, and so was I. She wanted to get revenge on them, and so did I. They slept together everywhere. Her house, my house, expensive hotels, business trips. It was sickening to read all that. They even sent each other pics, but we decided to ignore the pics because we didn't want to scar ourselves with the images. We wanted revenge, but not an affair ourselves.
What type of
pics? We both
pics?
decided that if they wanted each other, then they can have each other. We both drew divorce papers at round about the same time. We were dead set on it. Our spouses didn't know that we knew, and we acted our part. By the time our ducks were in a row, they were at it again. This time, through collaborating with the boss's wife, we knew exactly where and how they were going to be served. We knew which hotel they booked for their weekend of fun. I personally went there with the sheriff. I waited in the lobby as the sheriff got everything working, and my wife was called to come down from her room. She did, dressed in a bathrobe, and I fear nothing else. She's panicking, frantically asking me what I was doing there. It was quite a distance from our home, but not too far. The sheriff asked for confirmation of her name and information. She confusedly answered in the affirmative and was served. It was very satisfying seeing the shocked look on her face, but I did not want to rub it in, so I decided to walk away knowing the job was done. She didn't let me and was holding my arm, pulling me back and demanding to know what was the meaning of this. I told her, you had an affair and I'm leaving you. Simple. She started screaming at me and pulling my arm hard. The sheriff had to step in and tell her to release me at once.
Facts.
She did so and started crying, telling me she can explain. I have the wrong idea. It's my fault. I was getting angry, so I left quickly to get home.
Whose fault?
My wife told her boss and he panicked. From what I was told, he rushed home only to be served there. We did not give them time to get their heads on straight. We blindsided them just like they did us. My divorce will be finalized in a couple of months. Hers might be taking a bit longer. Both my wife and her boss have been fighting us on the divorces. Neither wants to get divorced. The excuses I hear is that they never intended to leave their spouses. It was a purely sexual affair. Nothing more. People have worse affairs and still come out with a great marriage. They fucked up and would like a chance to unfuck the situation. I have asked my wife what she thought the outcome of all this was. She said she was going with the flow and acted completely out of character. She is not that person anymore. I told her she's an idiot. People around me are calling me evil for not giving my wife another chance. My kids know what's going on, age appropriate, and they are behind me 100%, but would like it if we stayed together. My resolve is slipping. Coupled by the fact that we still live in the same house and my wife is going to therapy and reading the book I brought, it's getting harder to stick to my guns. She says she's remorseful and will do whatever it takes. All I tell her is that she's sorry she got caught, and that's all I need to know. She's called me a bitter, resentful person who can't look past all the negativity. She apologized for it later, but I know that's how she feels. The boss's wife and I still talk, and my wife absolutely hates that. She thinks I'm going to have a revenge affair, or her boss's wife is the reason I will not give us another chance. She has asked me repeatedly to initiate no contact with her boss's wife, just like she did with her boss. I told her she's crazy. We didn't do anything wrong, and why should I respect your opinions now? See? I think I'm done. I have no respect for her. She still doesn't want to give up and is actively trying to engage with me about her thoughts and processes to her affair. I see them as excuses, so I don't entertain her. She wants me to do therapy with her. I read many places where the therapist blames the victim, so I was like, hell no. She wants me to read infidelity books with her. What's the point if we're going to divorce anyway? She wants to be intimate. I told her she was not going to manipulate me with sex. She says it's not manipulation and she just wants to show me how much she loves me. I corrected and said, love me now. You mean? People around me are frustrated with me, even my mom, because they say people make mistakes, and my wife realizes through her mistakes that she truly does love me. I told people that I will never be anyone's fallback plan. I feel very bad for treating her the way I do. I still love her even though there's hate there. Am I being unnecessarily cruel to her? She's trying really hard, but I just don't care. Should I reconsider the divorce?
Is weird.
People are saying I'm moving too quickly and I will regret it. Is that true? I don't know what's real and what's not. Edit. Thank you all for taking the time to respond to my situation. I have read all your comments and some of you touched on important subjects, and I will have a discussion with my wife in a moment. I will keep you updated, but I think divorce is really the best route for me and my kids. Reading here has helped. Update for the story. Okay, I'm back again. I'm trying for the second time because I've been getting email after email asking me for an update. Thanks for your concern. Guys, I understand your curiosity and I'd like to clear up a few things. Firstly, my wife and I are in a sort of good place right now.
Really?
It is not because we are reconciling. No, I'm still divorcing her.
Oh.
The last update I posted up, which was taken down by the auto mod, explained in great detail our situation. The short version is my wife is still begging for another chance and is doing whatever it takes to get it. I will not give it to her because her affair was way too long for me to get over. If it had been a one-night stand, that would be a different story. But no, 2 years is just a slap in the face. I have gone to a few therapy sessions with her because I'm not a monster and still love her. One session was very good and made me understand that my wife is actually remorseful.
Alright.
She has not been perfect with how she handled the fallout of her affair, but she has been trying pretty damn hard. Second session was a mess of her upset at me for continuously contacting the boss's wife and her being afraid of a revenge affair. It was the angriest I ever was through this whole mess, and we did argue a great deal later because I refused to do what she wanted, which is no contact with the boss's wife. That was resolved when I promised her that there will be no revenge affair. I know I don't owe her anything, but she's still my wife until our divorce, and I still want to hold true to my commitments. I have been going to a few more sessions with her just to see her progress. Yes, this therapist is an individual and marriage therapist. No, I'm not going to these sessions because deep down I want to save our marriage. I want to see my wife's progress myself, participate if I have to. After the divorce, I will step away gracefully. The boss's wife is still leaving her husband. Her husband is still fighting her. On the divorce, she is as adamant as I am, and I will admit we do confide in each other when we have low days. I still do not see any affair happening. We are just on friendly terms with each other. Yeah, that's all. She is a strong and independent woman who takes no bullshit from anyone.
Yeah.
My kids are fine. They know just because we're divorcing doesn't mean we love them any less. They don't want a divorce, but understand why it's necessary for us in an age-appropriate manner. My wife doesn't work at the advertisement company anymore. She works elsewhere. She resigned shortly after I served her. She has been strictly no contact with her former boss. According to her, she reached out on forums to get help on saving the marriage and used that advice. I've been reading a lot here, and at first I didn't understand why people stayed with adulterers. But after seeing my wife work her butt off to be a better person, I can see the temptation. She's not a monster. She's just flawed and made horrible choices, which she's learning to be better from. She has offered me everything under the sun to be given another chance. I'm not so sure I have it in me. The closer divorce comes to being final, the more at peace I feel. We recently had a long discussion of her asking to have a chance after divorce. She has offered a post-nup. I was not completely opposed to it actually, but it would be a very, very long road for her to travel for me to even consider it a possibility. She seems quite willing, but I don't see how that would benefit any of us. To be honest, a huge part of me wants this divorce out of a fleeting sense of justice. It's the only justice I can get without lowering myself to an adulterer. My mom and I made up after I revealed more about my wife's affair. Although now she's absolutely furious with my wife after learning the details.
LOL.
I don't know how to navigate that one. Rant, revenge affair. Okay.
Revenge affair?
I didn't want to write here until my divorce was finalized, but I'm just pissed off today and really want vent. As many of you know, my wife is scared crazy about a revenge affair. Simple reason is because I'm still in contact and see the other woman she betrayed. My wife is very insecure compared to other betrayed spouse. Is that how it's spelt? Other betrayed spouse is younger, a model, very attractive and owns a successful business. It makes my wife paranoid that I will give in to temptation and cheat on her as revenge. I still cannot believe the nerve of her to give me the two wrongs don't make a right speech. Of course, she isn't wrong and I don't intend to ever follow through, but her hypocrisy infuriates me. Every time I'm going to visit other betrayed spouse, like yesterday, she gets extremely sad or extremely clingy. I don't know how many times she has thrown herself at me just to make sure that I don't cheat on her back. I reject her attempts and it only makes things worse. It absolutely floors me that cheaters are this selfish, only thinking about themselves and their pain while the betrayed have to trudge along and try to pick up the pieces. Another thing, our kids still see their kids. I never go to other betrayed spouse without my kids. But no, my wife still thinks I have it in me to be as heartless as she was and take any opportunity to bang the woman. Laughable shit. OM is still living in their holiday home, begging other betrayed spouse to take him back. I'm not going to lie, it brings me a sense of great satisfaction to see him suffer the consequences. He has not tried to threaten me because of how much leverage I have on him. He has to deal with the fact that I'm still in contact with his wife. He is allowed to visit his kids anytime he wants, but doesn't want to see me, so he makes sure I'm not around and then visits. I pity the guy honestly. Currently, my wife has been super apologetic. She has showered me with affection, which I simply brushed off. I'm not in a good place. We are having a therapy session today and I feel like unloading all the pain and hurt I've had to endure because of her. The rage I feel is becoming overwhelming. Update, well, checking in. Nothing really new to report to you guys.
Really?
There have been a few things that have developed though. Looking through my posts and messages made me realize what a great place this is that gives support to people like us. I have been reading a lot of stuff that concerns infidelity in order to get a better picture of my situation. Anyway, during a recent therapy session with my wife, she requested that I give her a little more time for her to win me back. She had reason after reason why it would be a good idea for me to at least try and see if I could participate in recovering our marriage. Not necessarily reconciliation yet. I repeatedly brought up the fact that she was only trying now because of the fallout of her affair. She would never be trying if she was still seeing OM. She emotionally abused me for months and I'm not the type of person to get walked all over, even from the woman I loved. She acknowledged all of her wrongdoings and apologized once again. She has given me so many promises of making it up to me. She wants our marriage to grow stronger than ever before and believes it's possible. I asked her if she was willing to put up with my rage because I have plenty to spare. She was like absolutely, and she would like me to unload on her whenever I feel like it to help myself process the pain. Usually when I asked her why she had an affair, I get a million excuses. This time she was forthright and told me there was no excuse for what she did, and she would spend every day for the rest of her life showing me through her actions that she was truly remorseful and would never hurt me that way again.
Sorry.
She actually unloaded feelings onto me, and it made me understand a bit
Unloaded.
that she really was very insecure of herself and jealous of other betrayed spouse. The affair made her ego skyrocket, and she liked feeling beautiful and desired. She acknowledged that the affair was definitely a fantasy and would never last. She hardly thought about the consequences but did think about it from time to time. She regrets ever having the affair and says will live with this guilt for the rest of her life. She will probably never forgive herself. She told me she could never hold a candle to other betrayed spouse, and the reason she was so sure I would cheat back is because other betrayed spouse is not only beautiful but she is a woman with integrity. Not once has other betrayed spouse ever said a mean thing to her or threatened her. It was all my wife's insecurities talking, and maybe the fact that I was angry at her for betraying me. Here's where it gets interesting. The therapist asked me what would it take for me to consider my wife's proposal. Nothing came to mind. I was honest and told her a time machine because what I have now is a sham of a marriage and I never signed up for it. She told me all marriage face problems ranging from infidelity to death. It's how those problems are dealt with that shows the strength of a marriage. I honestly could not believe where this conversation was headed, and I told the therapist to focus on my wife, not us. The therapist told me my inability to listen to logical reasoning might be a problem communication-wise. I did not disagree. My wife and I had a long talk during the drive home. She questioned if I felt emasculated due to her affair. Considering she had never asked me that before, I was genuinely surprised by the question. I answered yes. She shocked me by asking if I would feel better if I slept with another woman. I again told her I'm not nor will have a revenge affair. She explained that she was talking about a trial separation where I go out and get my mojo back. She will remain faithful and wait until I'm good and ready to come back to the marriage. I thought she was desperate before, but I found her proposal crazy. I asked her how that would benefit the marriage in any way for both people to be having affairs. She told me mine would not be an affair because we would be separated with conditions aligning with my freedom to see other people in place. I told her that's a huge risk on her part, and she responded that we were getting divorced anyway. So if this doesn't help us, at least I can see what the outside world has to offer. I obviously rejected the idea because it seemed way out of character for her to propose that. My wife has been strangely calm and patient these few weeks. She's like a different person from the crazy insecure one. Of course, I know not to trust her for my own sake. It's very difficult though. Even though she doesn't want it, she has been very generous in the divorce. I've read so many times where divorces gets nasty, but not mine. It feels quite unreal to be in this situation. It's difficult to navigate. Edit to add. Let me make it clear I'm still going fully through with the divorce.
Okay.
I'm interested in hearing people's opinions on this. Update, back again. Hello, everyone. I have another update in this sorry state of my life.
Okay, stop spamming
Before
that
I get into that, I'd like to thank the people who continuously reached out to me in support. So, currently, my wife and I have decided to be civil and spend the holidays together as a family. It will be the last holiday that will ever happen, although my wife is still hoping otherwise.
Bro, this
I want to do
guy's
this
like
for our kids' sake. I love my
think he
kids.
wants to go back.
Our divorce will be final in the middle of
like
February.
in his deep
for those
heart.
of you who were curious,
Like
we
he
have split
keeps
everything
trying to
half and
be
half,
like
although she has been very generous on her side. Still don't
greater
know whether it's a
person and
tactic and she might
divorcing?
turn nasty later. But so far she has been nice
he's
and confesses
wavering,
that it's
you can
because I have
tell.
been a great husband and father. So she feels I should get a more than fair divorce considering what she has done. That is not to say that she will lose a lot out of the divorce, but I do get slightly more thanks to her. I have decided to stop going to therapy with her. It was giving her false hope and sending her mixed signals. She has confessed that she has a burning desire to be intimate with me.
A
Throughout
burning
the time I've been
desire to
absent
be
here, and
intimate.
her understanding that I felt emasculated and undesirable thanks to her affair, she has been frequently, and I mean frequently, trying to engage me in sex.
What?
In all honesty, my wife hardly initiated sex before all this, so I found it a bit upsetting that she was doing it now. Over time, I grew to appreciate the fact that she saw this as a hang-up of mine and wanted to address it. I've rejected her though, but she still persists, adamantly stating that this has nothing to do with reconciliation and she just wants me to feel good and desired.
What?
I have cut off contact with other betrayed spouse for now because things were getting a little too personal for my liking. To the person who pointed out that I was having a revenge affair, I guess you were not way off. I didn't even realize it myself until other betrayed spouse confessed that she does want to try and see where this relationship between us goes.
Oh, hell
She has stated that she would wait for my divorce to be finalized before we tried anything. I was very confused and had no answer for her. So we have decided to take a break from being around each other until everything is sorted out. Other betrayed spouse is an attractive woman, but I don't know if I can return her feelings. I don't know how to handle that at all. Someone insinuated that being around other betrayed spouse was affecting her possible reconciliation with her husband. I assure you that I have nothing to do with her decision to leave OM. She is done with him and that's all her. We do not talk badly about our spouses when we're around each other. OM recently met me in person to apologize for everything that happened. He was always an arrogant guy and this experience really humbled him. I did not accept his apology. Call me petty, but I don't give a shit about what that asshole's going through.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I have a question. Is it okay for me to have sex with my wife even if we're not reconciling?
What?
I have to admit I miss having sex. I miss the intimacy and closeness of it all.
Okay,
my
he
wife
wants
is eager
some,
and has been
he
trying
wants
everything
some
possible
action.
to initiate it. New lingerie, sexting, touching, letters, etc. And sometimes I find it hard to resist.
Ooh.
She even threw away, burned and replaced anything that had to do with OM in my house without me asking her to, because frankly I just didn't care to know exactly where they had sex. It's not easy for me to switch off these feelings. Is this a trap? Am I being played? Before someone says kick her out of the house. I have already tried that and I want her here because it's less of a hassle until the divorce is done. Rant, it's finally dawned on me. Now. I thought I wasted all these years on a woman who was nothing but worthless, but she gave me great kids and great memories. These things I will never forget and will cherish as a man. But I finally understand I can do better than her, and I'm going to do better than her. I have had a flood of people giving me advice on how to deal with this situation. I finally understand that I deserve better than her. She screwed me over, put me down and made me feel less than when another man showed her attention. She literally invested her energy in another dude. I can't believe I'm finally coming to terms that I'm over her only now. Now she does whatever it takes to keep me. Now she's investing her energy in us. Now she wants me to be happy when she didn't give a damn before. Now she wants to be this adventurous person in sex with me.
Now is the key word.
The sex we had was never mind-blowing, but I liked it. Now I see how much I've missed out on. Through her text with OM, I know just the tip of the iceberg how graphic their treatise were. Now she wants to show me just how much she loves me when admittedly she has been quite lazy before. The lazy sex speaks volumes to me. Now she gives me space and is happy and supportive of anything I do, when before it was all about giving her attention and providing for her at the same time. Now she values my boundaries and goes above and beyond to add to them. Now she sees me as the king I wished she saw me as before. But no, I had to smack her off her pedestal first. Now she's the ideal woman, but it seems fleeting to me. Now she is completely transparent with me about everything. She is brutally honest too, even if it will upset me or embarrass herself. I don't think I've ever seen any woman with a constant look of shame on her face before. She wishes this affair never happened. I can see how much she kicks herself every day. I can see the hopelessness on her face when I'm just not receptive to anything she does. She looks so miserable, especially when she tries to hide it. It makes me hate myself sometimes, but to me it's necessary. Why can't I see this as a positive thing? Why can't I judge her for her actions now?
This is why I love this type of stuff, man.
Right?
I can't help myself.
Many people have LTAs and come out even stronger than before, right? Why am I basing my decisions off emotion and not a place of mature objectification? Someone else will end up getting the better and improved version of her while I venture into another uncertain relationship. Why not fight for this when everything seems to point to something good in the future? These are the lines I've been given and I have one answer. I will not accept disrespect. Maybe I was willing to in the early stages of discovery, but I woke up from that quickly. This is to answer the people who have pinned me and regularly asked about my situation. I'm going to enjoy this Christmas with my entire family and then move on from my wife. I decided to stop listening to the nonsense I created in my head to keep my wife's control over me and move on entirely from the idea of her. I will not be dating her or giving us another chance. We are over for good. I like to say that my wife isn't a villain and that is true. I want her to be happy as well, but it will never be with me. She has shown me that. I've called other betrayed spouse today and offered her dinner after the holidays for her support when I absolutely hit rock bottom. She said she would love to. I know this stuff doesn't happen often, but we really supported each other throughout all of this and I owe her thanks. Before people start talking about how much I planned this with OBS, I honestly did not. My emotions have been so screwed up this few years that the very thought of another woman never crossed my mind.
No
and it's dinner. Nothing else unless we both want it. But the closer divorce gets, the more I realize I actually have options and one option has been right there. What about OM? I don't give a flying FK about the dude. I do not think I will marry again, and I will tell this to any woman. Although my divorce hasn't been much of a hassle, I am losing a lot of money still. The whole idea of marriage just seems like a sham to me now. Sorry for being so cynical right now. I don't want this post to offend anyone, but I'm still jaded. I gave my best years to this woman and I'm starting to realize how little I got back. Happy holidays. You won't be hearing from me for a while. Update. Officially divorced. It's been a long time coming. I did mention before that I would come back and update for the last time here. It's over. My ex and I have officially separated for good. It happened almost 3 weeks ago. For the better part of a few days after the fact, I grieved like I lost a loved one. I think it hit me extremely hard that my marriage failed so spectacularly. Never cried that hard ever since I discovered the affair in the first place. I raged a lot too. Definitely one of my lowest points. Everything has been organized for my ex, partially on my part for the kids' sake. She moved out of the house and I'm looking to buy her out of her part of it. She lives in an apartment now. Very big downgrade for her and it pretty much depresses her. She is still going to the therapist. Still invested in reading and studying infidelity. Don't know exactly why. We've had long talks leading to and after the divorce. Minimal physical contact. I know I shouldn't entertain her now, but she's still the mother of my kids and I want us to be good co-parents.
Reddit? Oh, I read a lot of Reddit.
Largely thanks
like
to this community
the Reddits, the subreddits these posts go on.
She wants to reconcile and I think it's too risky for me to put myself in that situation again. Unfortunately, I'm not in the mood to give her that gift. This past weekend, I accompanied other betrayed spouse to dinner with no intention than enjoying each other's company and chatting. We talked about all sorts of things. Things got flirty between us and I must admit I was very reluctant to entertain the rapidly changing mood. Well, I guess I should say the night ended in a very passionate way. Sorry for TMI. It was probably the most mind-blowing sex I've ever had.
What
OBS
the
is
hell?
very much
I
a giver and
fucking
spades
knew
above my
it.
ex. I did not intend for it go that far, but other betrayed spouse who was willing and I was as well. Learned quite a few more tricks in the sack. Lol. First time I ever had someone that enthusiastic to please me and not the other way around. Guess I shouldn't call her other betrayed spouse anymore, as she divorced her ex, but for privacy's sake, I'll just use that. I do not think we will take our relationship further. To be honest, I think the hormones and wine got the best of us that night.
True.
She would like to, but I am undecided. I need to sort myself out, emotionally, and I think she does as well. I feel very good though. People might not like hearing this, but the sex I had with other betrayed spouse really helped a lot with my residual self-esteem issues.
What the
I
hell?
felt desired, alive, and finally understood what I was missing out on. I will never settle for robotic sex again. What was more satisfying was knowing that I was not cheating and did not lower my morals. All things considered, I'm very proud of how I handled all this crap. I wasn't perfect, but did the best I could.
Yeah, true.
I'm probably coming out very lucky compared to many BHs, even if I did lose a substantial amount of money in this process, but it was because I was willing to absorb advice and listen to people with experience instead of going in blind and hoping for the best. For that, I will be forever grateful to you guys.
Okay.
You and everyone who let me in here saved me from destroying my self-worth.
Yo, there's 10 more minutes.
Takeaways.
What's updated? I'm kind of bored of this one. I'm kind of bored. My cheating wife, entitled family wants to take my house. After divorce, wife wanted half of everything, owed a divorce. Entitled sister let them rent out my vacation home. Had enough of my stepdaughter. Sister-in-law tried to sabotage my pregnancy because she's jealous. Ooh, I don't know which one I want to read or watch or listen to. Wait, let me look at this channel.
Welcome to Telltale.
Popular. Family abandoned me because sis blames me for her divorce. Years later, I got an email. Parents take sister on vacation instead of me. Later, she ruined family vacation and got arrested. Ooh, that sounds fun. Let's look at this one.
Parents take sister on vacation instead of me. Later on, she ruined family vacation and got arrested.
Entitled
Now my
parents?
parents finally realize her true colors. I, 23F, have a younger sister,
I like the
Lisa,
stuff with like
18F,
affairs.
who I believe is
I
the
like
true
listening
incarnation
to
of evil
stuff
on earth.
with revenge.
I have tried my best
I
to
love
convince my
revenge
parents over
stuff.
the years to see the truth, but they never believed
I'm a
me,
big fan
at
of
least
that
until
stuff.
now. For
Is it
context,
right?
my
Was it the
parents and I have
time?
always had a
No.
somewhat strained relationship,
But it's-
mainly because of Lisa.
Humans,
My
as
parents
humans,
absolutely
it's hard
adore
to,
her
like,
because my mother had a miscarriage,
take the higher
and she
place,
lost
you
the
know what I
baby,
mean?
which
So-
deeply affected her. Lisa, born a few years later, was regarded as their miracle child, a beacon of hope and joy that healed the pain of their previous loss. My parents showered her with affection and attention, turning her into the center of our family universe. Now, let me be clear, I loved my younger sister when we were children. It's just that I slowly started realizing that Lisa had an incredible talent for manipulation that none of my family members were able to grasp. She knew how to twist the story in her favor, and she was a master at playing the victim card. Once on my birthday, I got this amazing antique pocket watch from our grandparents. I was so happy with it as my grandmother told me that it was a family heirloom. But Lisa, well, she was clearly jealous and kept asking if I could share it with her. I said no because it was a gift for me on my birthday. She tried to persuade our parents, but since it was from our grandparents, they couldn't do much. That night, Lisa, who knew I was terrified of spiders, placed a house spider inside my pillowcase, ensuring I would discover it when I went to bed. I awoke to the horrifying sensation of a spider crawling over my skin and started screaming. My parents rushed to my room in concern. Lisa acted all surprised and caring, but later, she admitted to me with a creepy grin when we were alone, that she put the spider there to teach me a lesson.
What?
I was shocked by how casually she confessed, without any remorse.
What?
Another time, I remember when I had a crush on my classmate, Mark, and I finally had the courage to invite him over to watch a movie with me. I was feeling all giddy and excited and had carefully picked out a dress to impress him. But, as soon as Mark arrived at our house, Lisa deliberately spilled a glass of juice all over my dress and started laughing at me. I was mortified and had to change, all while trying to hide my embarrassment. As if that wasn't enough, Lisa started telling Mark embarrassing stories from my childhood, making me feel utterly humiliated. She didn't leave us both alone the entire time we watched the movie. When Mark was about to leave, Lisa smirked and told him that he could do much better than me. Mark,
That's
who had been
fucked up.
uncomfortable the entire time, left in a hurry. I just couldn't believe how cruel and cunning my younger sister could be. Over
Like,
the
what the
years,
fuck?
I told my parents about her antics several times, but they always chalked it up to her being young and naive. They just couldn't see
Naive?
her for who she really was. Whenever I complained, they just dismissed me and thought of me as the troublemaker in the family. So, I eventually stopped speaking up about her. Lisa continued being their favorite child, while I, always straightforward, often felt like the outsider in my own family. I focused on my studies and managed to get into a good college. This gave me a chance to move out of our house and have a better life in college. However, every time I returned home during breaks, Lisa made it abundantly clear that she despised having me back in the house. She would deliberately ignore me, refusing to engage in even the most basic of conversations. During family meals, she would avoid sitting next to me or interrupt me if I was talking to our parents. Her constant need to undermine my presence was evidence that she despised the idea of me being around and was determined to make my visits as uncomfortable as possible. Lisa even used to mess with my stuff, pretending that she needed to borrow things, but would often damage them or lose them instead. My parents did nothing when I tried to complain and instead urged us to get along with each other. As a result, I began avoiding coming home during breaks.
Okay.
I would come up with excuses to spend my breaks with my college friends' families instead. Truth be told, my parents didn't mind as much and chalked it up to me being independent and wanting to enjoy some time away from home.
True.
When Lisa graduated from high school, she didn't have the grades for college, so she settled for community college instead. This meant that she never had to move out of our parents' place. These days, I am working at a multinational corporation in San Francisco, and I genuinely enjoy my job. I sometimes stay in touch with my parents, but I rarely visit back home. I don't maintain any contact with Lisa whatsoever. Now coming on to the story, my father recently had a near-fatal heart attack. Fortunately, he survived by some miracle and was rushed to a hospital. When my mother called to tell me about it, I immediately booked my tickets and flew back home to be there for them. The doctors prescribed numerous medications for my father and strongly advised him to start working out. Since being discharged, my father has expressed spending more time with us as a family and told me how lucky he was to be saved from the brink of death. I understood where my dad was coming from, so I continued spending a few days at our house. My job has the option to work remotely, so it was no problem. However, I noticed that Lisa was deeply agitated that I was back. I tried my best to avoid her because we were both older now, and I didn't want to argue after our dad's heart attack.
True.
One morning during breakfast, my father suggested that we all go on a family vacation as it had been a long time since we all went somewhere together. Initially, I had my reservations, but knowing how important it was to my dad, I agreed. As for Lisa, well, she wasn't thrilled about it, but she had no choice but to go along with the plan.
True.
My father made all the arrangements for our flights and accommodations. I had planned my leave from work well in advance and informed my colleagues not to contact me during this time, as I genuinely wanted to enjoy quality time with our parents.
True.
However, when we arrived at the airport, I found out that my flight ticket had been canceled. I exchanged puzzled looks with my father, who kept insisting that he had booked and paid for my ticket. When we checked further, it turned out that out of the 4 tickets, the one with my name on it in particular had been mysteriously canceled.
Whoa.
As I stood there, trying to comprehend the situation, I looked over at Lisa. She had a sly smile on her face as she stared at me. It was a look I had seen so many times before, the same expression she wore when she had successfully pulled off one of her manipulative tricks. I realized at that moment that she was the one who had canceled my ticket, probably from my father's computer. I started yelling at her as she continued to stand there smiling at me. I pointed out to my parents that it was Lisa's doing, as she never wanted me to go on this family vacation in the first place. Instead of believing me, my mother immediately dismissed my claim, saying your sister would never do something like that. She went on to tell me that I should stop being jealous of my younger sister and that it was just a freak accident that my ticket had been canceled. My father also tried to justify that this might have been an airline mistake and I should not blame it on my sister. I was utterly frustrated that my parents couldn't fathom that their beloved miracle child would be behind such a deception. At this point, there was nothing that I could do. My ticket was already canceled and there were no other flights for that day. While it was possible for me to catch a flight the next day, I didn't relish the idea of returning home, booking a new flight, and traveling alone. After all, this was supposed to be a family trip.
Right.
I was also dreading sharing a room with Lisa during this trip.
True.
I had hoped that she had matured over the years, but if she was behind the cancellation of my flight ticket, I couldn't help but wonder what other schemes she might have in store to make my trip miserable. My father was initially hesitant, suggesting they could all go back home and plan a new trip later, but he then started talking about how it had been ages since he went on a vacation. My mother agreed, telling me that I always travel a lot for work, so I wasn't going to miss out on much on this trip if I didn't go. Their comments really got to me. It felt like they wanted me to insist they continue to go on this vacation without me. I told them that they were welcome to continue with their vacation if they wanted, and they readily agreed. Although I didn't want the money they had spent on the tickets and rooms to go to waste, I was sad that they didn't care whether I joined them or not. It became clear that they didn't mind going on this family vacation as a family of 3. So there I was, standing alone at the airport as my parents and Lisa headed for their much-anticipated vacation. I decided to return to my home in San Francisco, not wanting to spend a day further alone in our family house. I tried my best to put the incident behind me and focused on enjoying the rest of my leave that I had already taken from my work. I reconnected with old friends and spent my days engrossed in books, turning my break into a solo staycation. During the trip, my parents would sometimes video call me and I could see how much they were enjoying the trip without me. It was like my absence didn't really affect their trip in any way. Although I wasn't too heartbroken about missing the vacation, I couldn't help feeling excluded. It was yet another reminder of the favoritism that had always existed in our family. I hoped that someday they would see through Lisa's true nature, and I guess my wish finally came true. A few days into their vacation, I woke up to several missed calls from my mother. Worried that my father's health might have taken a sudden downturn, I immediately called her back. Thankfully, she picked up, but she sounded extremely distressed. I asked her if everything was okay, and she went on to explain that something deeply troubling had happened. Apparently, my parents had noticed that my father's essential heart medications were disappearing day by day.
What?
It was an alarming situation, as my father couldn't afford to miss his medication, given his fragile health. They were in a foreign country and didn't know if the same medicine would be available outside of the US. They were genuinely concerned about the missing pills and searched their room everywhere in vain. My mother had gone to Lisa's hotel room, which was adjacent to theirs, to borrow some sunscreen while Lisa was out. To her utter shock and dismay, she discovered all the missing medicines carefully tucked away inside Lisa's bedside table.
Bro.
It was a chilling revelation, and she immediately called for my father. He rushed in and found all his medication that had gone missing the last few days. I guess this is when the truth dawned on them that their beloved daughter, the so-called miracle child, had been intentionally jeopardizing my father's health and putting him at great risk. My mother's voice quivered as she asked if they should confront Lisa about this. I asked her to not speak to Lisa about this until they were back home. They needed to gather their thoughts, emotions, and evidence to face Lisa with the undeniable truth.
Oh, hi, Linda.
I knew that speaking to Lisa now would be
Hi,
futile,
Nubs.
as she was a master manipulator
Crazy
and would
Lisa,
likely
I know,
concoct
right?
excuses to evade responsibility. However, something unexpected must have transpired that night, and my parents must have confronted her about it.
Ooh.
I received a late-night call from my father, his voice trembling as he informed me that Lisa was in jail. I was taken aback.
What?
He recounted that Lisa had a full-blown tantrum when they asked her about the medications, throwing objects and shouting insults. Her rage was targeted primarily at my father, accusing him of booking a ticket for me when he should have never allowed me on their family vacation.
Damn.
She told them that if they continued having a relationship with me, she would teach them a lesson that they would never forget. Lisa continued to lash out, and the situation
Is
escalated
she
rapidly
too?
until someone from the hotel called the authorities. When the officers arrived, she refused to calm down and insulted them, which led her to be taken into custody. Lisa would be released after 24 hours, and there was nothing that my parents could do at the moment. Desperate to return home after Lisa's release, my parents had then tried to reschedule their flight. However, their plans were foiled when they discovered that their passports and wallets were missing. It turns out that Lisa had either discarded their passports or hidden them away, but for
What?
now, they were stranded in a foreign country with no passports or wallets.
What the
I guess this was
fuck?
the first time that my parents started to see my sister for who she really was. My mother, who had persistently defended Lisa for all these years, was now begging me to help, as they didn't have any money or their documentation to fly out of there. She was overwhelmed, shocked, and distraught at the realization of her angelic daughter's true nature. I told them not to worry, and that I would send them money using Western Union, but they had to find their passports first so they could return back home. I was certain that Lisa hadn't discarded them. My parents were finally realizing that I had been the honest one all along about her antics, and were grateful that I was helping them out despite them not taking me on this vacation.
True.
They apologized for their behavior. While part of me wishes I could forgive my parents, it's hard to shake the feeling that I've been deprived of their love for all these years due to their favoritism towards my sister.
True.
So, Ida, for not forgiving my parents that they went on this vacation without me, and now that they get a taste of it, they come back begging for my forgiveness? Update 1. Every day, my parents call me with updates, and I am growing increasingly anxious about their situation. You see, after Lisa was released from jail the next day, my parents threatened her to give them back their passports or they would call the authorities on her again.
Oh, yeah.
Faced with no other choice, Lisa eventually revealed where she had hidden their passports.
Where?
Upon their return home, my parents confronted Lisa and made it clear that she needed to gather her belongings and leave. It had become abundantly clear that they
Just
had
like
reached
that?
their breaking point, finally realizing the truth about their daughter's manipulative and harmful actions. She might jeopardize his health again by stealing his medicines. This started another screaming match between Lisa and my parents. During this confrontation, Lisa began to hurl accusations at my parents, expressing her anger and resentment. She told my parents that she didn't want to share them with anyone else and claimed that she had been pushed to the brink when they invited me for the trip.
What the hell?
She kept insisting that my parents should disown me, emphasizing that she was more than enough for both of them.
What the
It was
fuck?
at this moment that my parents must have realized the depths of her jealousy and the extent to which she resented my place in our family. While they tried to placate
Yeah,
her, she kept yelling
Lisa is
accusations at
cuckoo in
them,
the
and in a
brain.
fit of desperation and anger, she claimed that she would go around telling everybody that they had neglected her when she was a child and mistreated her during her formative years.
What?
She was basically going to accuse them of parental negligence. Lisa then threatened to go to the police and make false statements against our parents if they continued to ask her to move out. This genuinely scared my parents, as these fabricated allegations would put them in a difficult position, particularly since they are well-respected doctors in our community. The mere thought of their reputation being ruined by false accusations has since left them feeling trapped and anxious. In the past few days, Lisa has continued to make our parents' lives more and more difficult. When she found out that they were talking to me regularly nowadays, she got really mad and started breaking dishes in anger. What's worse, she keeps stealing their car keys and hiding them, which makes it hard for them to go to work every day.
What?
Just tonight, my mother called me in tears after another bad incident during dinner. Lisa had a big tantrum and yelled at them.
Hi, too. Thanks for priming. What's poppin'? Thank you so much for using your Prime on me. Welcome back for the 5th month in a row, my little mignon. What's poppin'? Okay, keep going.
Because she wanted my mother to cook for her. When she refused because she was tired from work, Lisa went on a rampage and started breaking furniture around the house. Then she went to her room and turned up the music really loud, which prevented our parents from getting a good night's sleep. The situation keeps getting worse, and it's taking a toll on my parents emotionally and mentally. I am increasingly concerned about what might happen next. While I had hoped my parents would see Lisa's true nature, I now worry that she could pose a real threat to them. I can't even return home at the moment because it might trigger her further and lead to more explosive confrontations. I'm doing my best to persuade my parents to consult with a lawyer so we can find a permanent solution to.
This reminds me of those TikTok movie recaps because of how long these stories are. It's because they're very bad at wording it because these people aren't writers, right? So, makes sense. Lisa needs to be institutionalized. I agree. Hi, Medak. Yes. Crazy psycho, right?
The legal route seems like the best way to protect my parents and restore peace to our family. Update 2. Lisa has been arrested. As many of you predicted, with Lisa's increasing antics, this was bound to happen. One night, she came at our parents with a knife during a big fight.
What?
This terrified my parents and they were forced to call the police. The officers swiftly took her into custody, placing her under arrest on charges of assault. With Lisa in custody, our parents decided it was time to pursue a more permanent solution. They consulted with an attorney who advised them on the legal process for evicting her from their home. They filed a formal eviction notice that said she had to leave. They knew it wasn't easy, but it was necessary to make things safer. Our parents didn't want to continue pressing any charges on her as they just wanted her to move out. They bailed her out of jail and handed her a formal notice telling her she had to move out. It had all the legal stuff explaining why she had to go and when she needed to leave. My parents made sure they did everything by the book, so Lisa couldn't challenge it. Next, they went to court with their lawyer to start the eviction process. It meant filing a lawsuit against Lisa. This was all pretty hard on my parents since it was their own daughter they were taking to court.
Yeah.
They felt really sad, guilty, and like they had no other choice.
Yeah.
The court finally gave an official order that said Lisa.
If you're a parent, like, you can't blame anyone but yourself in these situations for how your own kid grew up to be such a menace. You know what I mean? And movie recaps are fun. I love movie recaps because I don't have to pay to watch the movie.
Lisa had to leave the house.
Yeah,
if she didn't go on her own, they would have the legal right to make her leave the property.
Okay, don't
Lisa
say
is
that,
going to be out by next week.
I wouldn't
My parents
go that
can finally
far.
breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that they have taken a step towards getting their home and peace back. It's been a tough road, but they're hopeful that things will get better once Lisa moves on. I have stayed in touch with them throughout this ordeal and plan on bringing them over to San Francisco for a few weeks. It's a way to give them a break and let them relax after all they have been through. I am sure they could use a change of scenery and some time away from the stress Lisa has caused.
Do you finish
Plus,
your work?
it'll be a chance for us to spend some quality time together, and I want to support them as much as I can.
Maybe?
Update 3.
Maybe less so?
I have received hundreds of comments under my post and it's taken me some time to go through them. Many of you have suggested that we should consider getting Lisa checked out to see if there might be a mental health issue at play here. The thing is that since she's an adult, we can't force her to go for a checkup against her will. Due to her sudden violent outbursts, we don't want to push her and make this situation more complicated than it already is. As I mentioned in my last update, my parents flew down to San Francisco to spend a few days with me. They are here to take some time away after what they went through the last few months. Yesterday evening, as we gathered around the dining table in my cozy apartment, my parents began to open up to me, their voices laced with humility and regret. They admitted that they had been blind to Lisa's true nature over all the years and begged for my forgiveness. My father expressed his remorse for not heeding my warnings earlier. He admitted that they never expected Lisa to turn out this way and were unable to see the truth that lay beneath her charming facade. My mother echoed my father's sentiments and acknowledged the gravity of their mistake in dismissing my concerns about Lisa's behavior over the years. Her voice trembled as she voiced the pain of realizing how they had failed me by favoring her. I let them know that I appreciated them taking the first step in seeking my forgiveness. I shared several painful memories of the years of torment I endured due to Lisa's actions. My parents listened, utterly shocked and dismayed, at the extent of what I had endured on my own. They acknowledged the pain I had gone through and expressed regret over the isolation I felt in my own family. My parents recounted how their favoritism towards Lisa had clouded their judgment because they never had expected to get pregnant with her and always considered her to be their miracle baby. With sincerity in their voices, they begged for my forgiveness for all those years. It was a bittersweet moment for me, as I had always wanted their
I don't think she
acknowledgement.
wanted to forgive.
While it may not have been the ideal way to
it's
mend
too
our
hard to.
relationship, it was a turning point that brought some much-needed honesty and clarity to our family dynamic. We were, for the first time in years, truly acknowledging the issues that had plagued our family. I told them that it would take me some time to trust them again, and we all agreed to work through this together. For now, I plan to make the most of the time I have with my family while they are here with me for the next few days. Update 4. As the days passed, my parents and I spent more time together, exploring the vibrant streets of San Francisco, enjoying leisurely meals, and simply relishing each other's company. It has been quite a journey to reconnect with each other by rebuilding the bonds that had been frayed by years of favoritism and denial. I came to understand that their decision to seek solace with me was not just about physical distance from Lisa, but a desire to rebuild the family they had almost lost. They needed a fresh start, and so did I. My parents and I have since discussed what to do with Lisa. She is currently staying at one of her friends' homes. We can't simply abandon her, despite the turmoil she has caused in our lives. As parents, my mom and dad feel a profound sense of responsibility towards their daughter, even if her actions have been unforgivable. We have come to terms with the fact that her behavior might not be just willful mischief but might be indicative of deeper issues.
Yes.
We plan to explore
definitely.
the possibility of a mental health evaluation to better understand her condition. However, since Lisa is an adult, we can't force her into such an assessment and plan to find a way to encourage her to seek help voluntarily. My parents plan on reaching out to Lisa once they are back home to see if she is open to a discussion. I don't want to contact her because she still holds a strong grudge against me, and I'm trying not to worsen the situation for the sake of her mental health.
True.
Considering the past incidents of aggression and violence, I have encouraged.
Did you finish your work, bruh? Finish it? It's fine. My kid turned out like that. I would let the Asian blood take over and send her to Jesus, Buddha, Allah, and SpongeBob. That's crazy. Hi, Vamp. You're getting up so late. All good?
Urged my parents
As
to
long as
meet
you
her
get
at a
good
public
rest.
place so that she would be forced to control her emotions. Our primary goal is for Lisa to grasp our perspective and, most importantly, recognize the deep love and concern we hold for her. It's not about assigning blame, but rather about coming together as a family to address the issues that have strained our relationships.
That's it? Okay. Man, Lisa was a menace. I need a new one. When rich grandparents threatened his inheritance. Ooh. Tried to seduce my fiance before my wedding. Kicked out as a teen for false rumors. Years later, parents see my success and demand money. Refusing to go to the family vacation because my sister is demanding me to babysit. Wife wanted half of everything I owned and divorced after sleeping with her ex, so I vanished without a trace. Sister chooses grandpa over our dad to walk her down the aisle at her wedding after years of neglect from both of our parents. Ooh. And, my entire family wanted to take my house, give it to my brother. My family abandoned me because sis blames me for her divorce. Years later, I got an email out of nowhere explaining me everything with proof. I ruined her life with it. Let's do the inheritance stuff. I love this type of stuff. This is my jam.
Parents kicked me out at 16
What
to make
type of
room for
rabbit
sister's
hole?
new baby.
You'll see.
I posted about their neglect online and dad begged when rich grandparents threatened his inheritance. I, 16F, turned 16
Sitting
just
on
a
her
week ago.
brother's lap?
There was no party, no celebration, and my parents barely even wished me before kicking me out of their house. The reason behind it was my older sister, Amanda, 22F. She's pretty much my parents' favorite and has always been for some reason. She's 7 months pregnant right now, and since we have a house with 4 bedrooms, my parents sat me down on the morning of my birthday to inform me that they now wanted me to move to my aunt's house so the new baby could have the room. My parents have never really cared about me and have always done the bare minimum when it came to me, but this was shocking even for me. I hardly expected anything from them and they were still letting me down somehow. They were very serious throughout the conversation, so I didn't think even for a second that they might have been joking or this might have been a pathetic attempt to prank me or something. After they were done explaining to me that they'd need the new room and that I was apparently old enough to move out, we just sat there in silence for a while. They'd told me that they would still take care of all my expenses until I turned 18 and make sure I was well fed and looked after, but they just couldn't keep me with them in the same home anymore.
What?
I didn't want to argue, but I did ask them why they couldn't just use the guest room for the nursery, and they told me, after some hesitation, that they'd use that for Amanda's boyfriend to stay with them.
Oh.
So to sum it up, my parents had a room of their own, my sister and her boyfriend had a room, and her baby would get its own room. Amanda wasn't at home, and I could tell that this was on purpose so she wouldn't have to watch this happen and feel guilty. My sister and I were never close because of the age gap, but she'd never really been awful to me either. We were civil to one another for the most part, but if she was okay with this arrangement and actually wanted me to leave the house so she could accommodate her new baby and boyfriend, then maybe she wasn't the person I'd thought she was. I was disappointed, and even more so because it was my birthday, but I didn't say a word to them and just agreed to leave. By now I've realized that my parents are a lost cause. There's nothing I can say to them to make them love me, and I've accepted that by now.
This is insane, no?
So after they told me that they wanted me to move out and live with my aunt, I went up to my room and started packing. They helped me pack, but I think that was just to help me get out quickly. After I was done, they even dropped me at my aunt's house and were very happy talking to me throughout the car ride, but didn't notice that I wasn't responding and was just silently staring out of the window. Once we got there, they dropped me off at the door and didn't even hug me or kiss me before leaving. My aunt welcomed me happily because she actually does enjoy my company, and as far as I know, she loves me more than my own parents do. I talked to her, and after a while, I told her how disappointed I was with what my parents were doing. She was caught off guard when I said that and asked me to repeat whatever I'd told her, so I repeated everything that had taken place that morning, and her smile was instantly replaced with a frown. She didn't say anything to me but grabbed her phone and said that she had to make a call and went to the other room. I didn't hear anything for some time, but then I heard the sound of my aunt fighting on the phone in a high voice, and that's rare because my aunt rarely ever screams at people and she's a really soft-spoken person, so I knew someone must have pissed her off pretty bad for her to lose her temper like this.
It was her
Then
parents.
she came back to the room, all red in the face and still looking very annoyed, and I learned that it was apparently my parents who had pissed her off so badly. So my dad, her brother, had told her that I'd actually suggested this arrangement for the sake of the baby, and I was completely happy moving out of my childhood home to live with my aunt. This is why she'd been okay with taking me in as well, since she could tell I'd never really been happy living with my parents, and me making a suggestion like that didn't seem too odd to her when my dad was trying to convince her to take me in.
That's crazy.
She's a single woman in her late 30s and has no intention of getting married or having kids, so letting me live with her was just like having a roommate for her, and she didn't have to worry about the cost of me living here either, since everything that I needed would be paid for by my dad. My aunt liked me and she thought that I was the one who wanted to live with her, so she agreed to this arrangement. But now that she knew the truth, she'd called my father up to confront him about it because what they'd done was messed up and she had to give them a piece of her mind.
Facts.
After the phone call,
Yes,
she was really
Auntie.
upset, and so was I, because this was something I don't think any other kid my age goes through often. I'd always known they liked my sister more than me, but this was a little extreme. They'd literally lied to my aunt to cover this up because they knew how insanely horrible this was. They'd literally chosen to give up their guest room for Amanda's boyfriend, who's in his 20s, has a job, and lives in his own apartment. If they wanted to make it work, Amanda could have easily moved in with her boyfriend, but it was at my parents' insistence that she'd been living at home because they wanted to be closer to her, and they were ready to even sacrifice my comfort just to keep her close.
That's crazy.
I was very hurt, and so I decided to go online and expose my parents for whatever they'd been doing. I didn't know if my aunt would be on board with it or not, so I waited for her to leave the room for a nap, and then I took out my phone, typed out the whole thing, and posted it without thinking. I'd mentioned not only the events of that day itself, but also how my parents have never treated me fairly and that I've always been considered nothing less than a second-class citizen in my own home. I kind of had a breakdown while typing it all out, and the post was not just me exposing my parents, but it was also kind of emotional, and by the time I'd posted it, I was in tears. I switched off my phone after that for some time because I was scared of the repercussions that this was bound to have. An hour or so passed and I tried to read a book but couldn't focus, and then my aunt woke up, rushed into the living room where I'd been sitting ever since I arrived at her house, and she asked me calmly if I'd posted something.
Yes.
I truthfully told her that I had, and that was it. There was no further discussion about it. So I switched on my phone and then saw that the post had been seen by several people in our family, and I'd received a lot of texts from my parents and even from my sister in the meantime. A lot of my relatives had commented on the post and expressed how they were on my side. Some of them had even texted me and reached out to tell me that they were always there for me if I needed any help whatsoever. That was uplifting, and I felt better until I went through my parents' messages, all of which were filled with hate and anger. Obviously, they weren't pleased with what I'd done and were demanding that I take the post down. My dad had said a lot of things about me in his texts and even added that he wished I'd never been born, which was hurtful but unsurprising. My mom's texts were along the same lines, and the only ones that were even slightly different were my sister's. She didn't say much but told me that she'd like to speak to me in person if that was possible, and left it at that. I didn't know what to say to any of it and was just very overwhelmed by all the people I had to respond to, so I just kept my phone aside again and didn't say anything to anyone for the next couple of days. But what I did was block my parents because I didn't have any intention of talking to them anymore. I knew they were legally bound to keep sending money for me until I turned 18, and apart from that, I didn't think I had any reason to speak to them anymore. My aunt was also fine with it, and if my dad had tried to contact her in the next few days, she didn't inform me about it, and we pretended nothing had happened at all, which meant that she was on my side and supported whatever I'd done. That was enough for me, and it was all the support I wanted or needed. For the past week, I barely had any contact with my parents, but today, they showed up outside my school while I was about to leave, and they looked pissed. My
Ooh.
friends were all well aware of the situation between me and my parents, so they accompanied me outside and kind of acted like a human shield around me so I wouldn't have to interact with them if I didn't want to, but they kept yelling out my name and I had to respond. I walked right up to both of them and told them that I didn't want anything to do with them anymore, but they didn't pay any heed to that and told me that I needed to come home with them right away. I didn't understand why all of a sudden they wanted me to return with them when they made it so clear in the past that I was not a priority for them at all, and felt like this was just them trying to redeem their image and reputation among their family members. So I told them that I wasn't going anywhere with them until they told me what was going on, as a way to try and get to know why they were acting like this all of a sudden. On one hand, they looked pissed off, and on the other, they still wanted me to come back home with them. They told me that they didn't want my friends hearing this, so I told them to back off a little so I could speak to them in private. Once my friends were out of earshot, my parents told me that they were here to take me back because I wasn't answering any of their calls or texts, and they needed me to come back so that they'd be able to get their inheritance still. They explained that after I'd made that post, pretty much everyone in the family had become aware of the situation and it had reached my grandparents.
Ooh,
My
the
paternal
rich
grandparents are
grandparents.
quite well off, and they threatened my dad by saying that if they continued to treat me like this, then he'd lose his inheritance. They'd been told that if they didn't try and reconcile with me, treat me better, and make sure I was loved and looked after, then whatever my father was supposed to inherit would end up going to my aunt, since she was the one taking care of me even though she didn't need to. And my dad couldn't afford to lose the inheritance because it was a significant amount of money. My parents had a decent combined income of their own, but I know that had I been in their place, I probably would have also wanted the same thing for myself. The only difference is that I would have had enough brains not to make it seem like I was doing me a favor by saying that they'd take me back, because they weren't doing me a favor. They were doing this for themselves and not for me, and even then they didn't have the common sense to at least act like they were willing to let me live with them. So I said that I didn't care about whether they got their inheritance or not, and walked away without bothering to wait and hear them out, even as they screamed at me to come back. I took the bus back to my aunt's house and told her what had happened at school, and she seemed annoyed as well. To ensure that this doesn't happen again, she's contacted her lawyer so we can do something about my custody. Of course, it's still my parents who still have their rights over me, and that has to be changed if I want to live with my aunt. I also called up and thanked my grandparents for trying to fix this, but I also told them that I really didn't want to go back to living with my parents, because now that I'd spent a couple of days living with my aunt, I finally felt like I was free. Living with my parents had been nothing short of suffocating, and I'd kept hoping that things would change, but they never did. My grandparents didn't live in the same city, so we didn't meet often, but whenever we did, at family gatherings and the holidays, my parents were always on their best behavior, so they wouldn't know how I was treated at home. It wasn't as if I was treated with cruelty, but it was more like ignorance and avoidance. On the surface, it all seemed fine, but if people spent a couple of days with me at my parents' house, they'd know that they mostly pretended I wasn't even there and cared only about my sister. And after she got pregnant, that just got worse, and I was pushed to the sidelines altogether. So I told my grandparents all of this, and they reassured me that if that's what I wanted, to live with my aunt, then they'd make sure that it happened, and if my parents signed away their rights, then they'd make sure everything I needed was paid for by them. I was happy after that conversation because things were finally looking up for me, but it didn't last long, since I just received an email from my dad a couple of hours back.
I want to see what the sister
It was not
feels.
hateful or mean, but just disappointing. He said that there was no need for me to post what had happened online and make this so public, when the word of what had happened would have reached my grandparents anyway through my aunt. But now, along with my grandparents being mad at them, they also have to deal with a ton of hate from their relatives, and they're being ostracized, which seems unfair. He told me that even some of his co-workers found out about this because the post was public and it had shown up on their feed since he was tagged in it. This wasn't a good look for him at work, and what I'd done had just caused a lot of unnecessary
The kid tagged her parents in a call-out post. Oh. Now that's crazy because of how social media works. Now that's crazy.
drama in their lives, according to me. So Ida for posting about how my parents asked me to leave the house and move in with my aunt on my 16th birthday because my sister was pregnant and they needed my room for the baby. Update 1. So before I get to what happened, thank you so much everyone for bothering to take some time out and comment on my post. Your kind words mean a lot to me, so thank you. Now to answer some of the questions a lot of you seem to have regarding why I hadn't left my parents' house before this and why I'd waited for them
She's
to ask me to
16.
leave, especially since my grandparents and aunt seemed willing to help. The reason for that is that I wasn't exactly treated cruelly, like I already said in the original post. I was never treated badly as such, but I was just ignored and unwanted. That's a sort of mistreatment as well, but for me, I was just glad that I wasn't being beaten or spoken to badly. I still had a roof over my head and food to eat, so I had convinced myself that I was doing just fine and didn't think it was important for me to actually feel loved or anything. I didn't really realize that I was being neglected because it had become so normalized for me. And as for why I didn't approach my family for help, I just didn't want to burden them. I was also worried about what would happen if they refused to help me out and somehow my parents found out. That'd be very bad for me at home since my parents care a lot about appearances and stuff.
True.
And that's really why I just kept everything to myself and tried to deal with everything while suffering in silence. My aunt didn't offer to take me in herself because she didn't want to insult my parents and she wasn't even sure if I'd want to come live with her, so we didn't do this earlier, but now that this is what's happened organically, I guess it all worked out for the best.
True.
It happened a little late, but still, better late than never.
True.
She's in talks with a lawyer right now to get my custody rights transferred to her, and it's going to be a hell of a task to convince my parents to give up their rights since now the inheritance is at stake. But even if this goes to court, I know that my grandparents and aunt will have my back. My aunt's been very apologetic to me ever since I came here because she's realized how neglected I was at my own home and feels bad for never trying to talk to me because she felt like it was not her place and letting it continue. At least the air is clear between me and my family now, and I feel a lot better about the future right now. Then there's also my sister. So in my original post, I'd mentioned that she'd texted me and told me that she wanted to meet me in person if that was possible, but I didn't know what to say to her, so I ignored that text. She'd never personally been awful to me and had adopted the same behavior that my parents had. She'd just been distant from me for most of my life, but if she had to talk to me, she was generally nice. I thought that the whole idea of kicking me out so her boyfriend and child could live with her and our parents was her idea, so I was upset about that as well, since it meant that now she was going to start treating me badly and show her true colors, so I didn't get back to her. We had a weird, tense, and strained relationship, but I still liked her better than my parents since she'd be nice to me whenever we did speak, and it wasn't her fault that my parents liked her more than me. So when 3 days ago, she texted me again and asked me to visit her, I decided to call her and ask why she wanted to see me. I wasn't going to go back home, which is where I assumed she'd be, but to my surprise, she told me that she was living with her boyfriend at the moment and wasn't feeling well enough to go out, so she was asking me to come to see her so we could have a discussion about everything going on in the family. She told me that she had a lot of things that she wanted to talk to me about, so out of curiosity, I did go to see her. Once I got there, she first apologized to me for never speaking up for me, even though she knew that our parents were playing favorites and never favored me. They'd always ignored all my achievements to celebrate hers, and I was always the least wanted kid, but she never did anything to remedy that. She just never felt comfortable speaking to our parents about this, so she just let it slide, and since I seemed okay and fine with the treatment I was getting, she felt less inclined to say anything. She'd now realized that it was pretty messed up and wanted things to change. So she apologized to me. She also told me that the living arrangement was something our parents hadn't discussed with her at all, and she'd been shocked to find out about them kicking me out to accommodate the new baby and her boyfriend because she had no idea that this had happened. She'd never even asked for any of this, and her plan had been to just live with our parents until the baby was a few months old and then she'd move in with her boyfriend. She'd wanted to move out earlier but had stayed only at my parents' insistence. However, after my post, she realized that this couldn't continue and moved out within a week. She'd had a huge fight with our parents over her moving out because they believed that this was a bad decision, and now they weren't even talking because she'd been accused of being ungrateful and selfish. None of which she'd been, because she'd never promised my parents anything and they just assumed things themselves. So all that drama was for nothing, ultimately, since my parents ended up losing both their kids. At least she apologized to me for being a bad sister and a bad person in general, which I forgive her for because I don't think choosing to be unforgiving and cold is going to help me in any way. We talked things out and she told me the same thing that my aunt did, that from this point on, she'd be there for me no matter what. So that was nice. It's been a little less than a week since my original post and I still haven't heard from my parents after the email, so I'm guessing they've given up on trying to get me back. I'm sure my grandparents must have had something to do with it, since they did call me in the middle to tell me that my parents wouldn't be bothering me anymore and that I didn't need to worry about them showing up at my school or emailing me again. I hadn't told them about the email that Dad had sent, so I'm assuming that my parents and grandparents must have talked about things. I don't know what they would have talked about, but I'm sure my parents have given up now.
I feel like, of course, she's at fault.
Just 3 days have passed since my last update, and today my aunt told me that my parents have agreed to give up their parental rights and the paperwork and stuff will be complete soon. She'll be taking over the legal aspect of my custody soon, and I have mixed feelings. I'm happy that I'm finally going to have a home where I don't constantly feel unwanted and unneeded, but I'm also kind of empty and sad about some things. I feel weird that this is finally happening, but this is for the best. This is what I wanted. Update 3. Okay, hey, guys. A couple of weeks have passed since my aunt took over. She's my legal guardian now, so yay for that. I also found out that my parents only gave up my custody because after I told my grandparents that I didn't want to go back to living with them, they told my parents that they could either lose their entire inheritance or they could keep 50% of whatever they were going to receive initially and give up my custody and promise not to bother me again in any way. I guess we all know what my parents picked, lol. Yeah. I'm not surprised, and at this point, I don't even care because this just makes me feel like I dodged a bullet there. Good riddance for me. I'm still in touch with my sister, though.
Of course, we'd want the grandparents to not give them any inheritance, but at this point, the grandparents are probably like, we don't want our grandchild to suffer anymore. Let's just cut this clean and make it make the situation over with, which I respect the decision. They don't deserve the 50%, but like they just wanted their grandchild to be under custody of the aunt, right? And just and be safe and be comfortable and finally have this whole situation over with. So I understand the grandparents'
My parents
decision.
are trying to get
It's
back on
whatever.
good terms with her before her due date, but she wants some time to herself right now, so she's told them that she wants her space and they need to stop bothering her every day. At this point, I can't help but just laugh at what a pathetic mess they've made of their own family. But whatever, I'm happy with my aunt and that's all that matters.
Okay, that's the video. Hinge. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, if I were the grandparent, I'd try to make those parents like absolutely like get poo-pooed on or something, right? But if you don't want your grandchild to be hurt anymore, you definitely just try to cut it clean. So I understand. I became a teen mom to raise my nephew after my sister didn't want him. Now her daughter is jealous of her brother because they're turbo poor. Wife wanted half of everything I own in divorce after sleeping with her ex. I saw that. Sister chooses grandpa. Saw that. Sister-in-law tried to sabotage my pregnancy because she's jealous. Stepsister sold my fiance, sent me postcard rubbing it in. Now they're broke and begging me for a job at a family business she was supposed to inherit. My entire sisters demanded that I let them rent out my vacation home. Cut ties. Cutting ties is also pretty poggers. But like the thing is, you can't just cut ties with them because you need them to give over custody because they're still their legal parents. Hunt them down, ruin them, and watch them burn to the ground. Now, if you had one of these AI Reddit stories up, I would be interested because I want the drama. I don't want like smart decisions. I want dumb decisions. Give me the drama. Let's do this one. I want to see what I can cook one up real quick.
I became a teen mom to
Real
raise my nephew
true.
after my sister didn't want him. Now her daughter is jealous of her brother because they're turbo poor.
Yes, I
When I
want
was 18
like
and when
the.
my
Ooh,
sister
this
was
one's
22 at the time I had my
video
nephew.
instead of
Let's call him
parkour.
Luke, with her then BF, now husband. My sister and her husband
Might
didn't
not
have
be
any interest in
appropriate,
Luke
then
when
don't
he was
worry about
born,
it.
so I took the role of taking care of him. I got my grandmother, she's an angel, to watch him while I was in my last year of high school in exchange for me cleaning and cooking for her on the weekends. My parents weren't much help either. They would give me about $100 a month for Luke, and
That's
if you have
it?
a kid then you know it's not much. Me and my grandmother were the only ones to take care of him. A year after I graduated from high school I was kicked out with my nephew because my parents, sister, and her husband didn't want to deal with us anymore.
What?
My sister said she wished she never gave birth to him. I immediately went to my grandmother and we went to a family law attorney and I got custody of him and my sister and her husband signed the rights to me. I lived with my grandmother and when I went to community college and my part-time job she watched my son, Luke. It was a lot of work especially when my grandmother passed away when my son was 6. My grandmother left 90% of her things to me in her will, which caused my parents and sister to reach out to me under false intentions to meet my son and I to reconnect. That didn't last long and I told them they could either act right or never see us again. My dad decided to actually reconnect with my son and I and now we're close, while my mom and I don't really talk much but she treats Luke nice. When Luke was 8 both me and my sister became pregnant and that's when my sister decided she wanted my son back and started to tell him that me and my husband wouldn't love him anymore once my actual son came along.
What?
My husband met my son when he was 5 and we were already together for a year before he met my son. My husband treats Luke like his and we got married when my son was 7 and adopted him when he was 9, with my son's permission. We found out that my sister was saying this when one day he broke down crying asking us not to leave him after we told him that would never happen.
What the
He
hell?
explained what my sister and her husband were saying.
Manipulator.
Luke knows that he's not my biological son but he is my son. After that I cut contact with my sister and her husband again and did family therapy and individual therapy for my son. When I had my son, 1 pregnancy, 2 children, I made it clear that our love for him, Luke, didn't change.
Aww,
When my sister
you gotta
reached
make it
out
clear,
about 2
yeah.
years later I decided to go low contact with her with the okay with my son and husband. My husband and I live comfortably while my sister and her husband struggle sometimes financially. My kids did extracurricular activities, got the presents they wanted, and went on one big family trip in the summer.
Yay.
While my sister and her husband couldn't afford much, so when my niece was around 9, my sister started making comments about how I needed to pay for this or that for my niece, but I told her it wasn't my job. I gave my niece the gifts she wanted, took her out from time to time, but nowhere near how I would treat my own kids. Now my son, second, is turning 17 and my husband and I were talking about getting him a cheap starter car. We did the same for Luke when he was 17. My niece is also turning 17 and apparently my sister told her she was going to get a car too.
Nuh-uh.
The thing is my sister can't afford to buy her a car, so she asked me to, but I told her I wasn't going to buy her a car. That I didn't promise her one and that it's not my job to get her one. My sister then got mad and didn't talk to me for a while. When my son's 17th birthday came around, we surprised him with a car. My niece then called me a couple of days later screaming and crying, asking me why I hate her and why I can't treat her the same as her brother.
What?
I calmly told her things were different. Her brother is my son while she is my niece. I'm her aunt and nothing more. That as an aunt my job was birthday presents, Christmas presents, and showing up when it mattered. That was it. That her brother will always be more to me than she'll ever be. Then my niece started yelling at me again, telling me that I'm being unfair, and hung up. My sister then called me to berate me about how I need to do more. I told her if she wouldn't have promised a car to her or my money to my niece, none of this wouldn't have happened. It's been a couple of days and I'm getting calls from some family and some of my sister's friends calling me a bitch and some other things.
What the hell?
I do feel bad because my kids did grow up with more and I guess I could have helped more. Relevant comments. Why would courts allow a teenager to have custody? OP replied. I was 19 when I got custody. With them fine with signing over their parental rights and proving that I can provide for him, the courts gave no reason to not give me custody. It was months of proving I could provide for him. I still had people come to my grandmother's house and see where we
You're
lived
not my
and to make
kid,
sure that I
that's
could
why.
provide a safe and
See,
stable environment.
her niece doesn't have the concept in her brain that the thing in her brain is that she and her biological brother should have the same thing, not about the relationship with the postmaker. You know what I mean?
Why do you maintain a relationship with these people? OP replied. Because she had my niece, but mainly talking to my dad about it. It's why I maintained low contact. We only really talk when big holidays and birthdays come up. I have very low contact with my sister as it is. The only time we're around each other is certain people's birthdays and big holidays. I always put my son first. It's why I never truly let her back into my life, especially his. I make sure both my sons are happy and they make it perfectly clear when they don't want them around. That's why I didn't invite them to my son's birthday party. With the smart comment she makes, she stopped until she found out I was going to give my second son a car, then it started. That's when I distanced my family from her more. Even back then when she made comments, I put a stop to it. So don't tell me I don't have a spine because I stepped up at 18 to raise an amazing kid. Do you think I would really let my kids suffer, especially at the hands of someone like her? I don't care for my sister, but I care for my niece. My niece and sister sadly came as a package deal. Why do you have a relationship with dad? OP replied. Because my dad truly tried and did change. He was actually there for my sons and me. After my dad was around for a while, my mom wanted to get to know her and my kids too, and she made some changes too, not as much as my dad, but enough to where my husband and I felt comfortable. Just because they changed doesn't excuse the past. They still aren't trusted enough to where I ever let my kids alone with them. For my sister, a year or two after my niece was born, she became a little better, but we still didn't really have a relationship, and when we did have one, it was only to talk about birthdays and big holidays. When she would make smart comments, she would stop after my husband, dad, and I said something, but she did it more after she found out I was getting my son a car. Does your niece know everything? OP replied. My niece knows Luke is legally my son, I just don't think she knows how he legally became my son. How the F are other family members calling you out? OP replied. I think the extended family got told a different story. For the friends, my sister probably rallied them together. I think it's completely ridiculous, especially when we can be civil about it instead of bringing everyone in. Relevant comments towards more to my sister. I don't know why she rejected him. Her husband and her always chose to party and go out over him. They were never home, and when they were asleep or ignoring him. I don't know what my niece's home life was like, except they had financial problems off and on. Relevant comment towards how Luke was treated. When I would come home from school, he would be crying and covered in pee and poop. Everyone would just ignore him.
That's crazy.
About a month of that is when I went to my grandmother and she brought him diapers and formula. This is also when my grandmother and I came up with the deal of her watching him while I'm in school and my part-time job, and when I'm out of school or off, he'll be with me. My parents worked a lot, so when they came home, they didn't want to deal with a baby. They kicked us out because they were tired of Luke crying all the time and me asking for help to buy him diapers, formula, etc. They said that they were tired of giving me money for him, $100 a month. How is Luke now? OP replied. Luke is doing well. He graduated from college a little while ago and has amazing friends.
Yay!
He's starting a new job soon and he's looking forward to it.
Yay!
Update 1. First, I want to set something straight. I never let my sister hurt my kids like some of y'all think. The low contact was for my niece and that's all it was. When birthdays were coming up, we would talk about birthdays or holidays. The conversation would consist of when I would pick up my niece, let's call her Emily, how long I would keep her and when I would drop her off back home. My sister never kept my kids, never been to my house, and never talked to them without me or my husband present. Now another reason for the civil relationship with my sister is because Emily and my second son, let's call him Justin, went to the same school. So any type of school event that was going on, my sister was there. My kids and niece had a good relationship before the car situation. Justin and Emily had a close relationship, and Emily and Luke had a friendly relationship. I always made sure my kids were happy where my sister was in their life, which is basically non-existent except for some school events and some big family get-together.
Hi, sweet.
Mini update. 2 days after Emily's call, I decided to call her to meet up with her. We decided to meet at a park that's a few minutes away from my home. When we met, Emily seemed normal but a little bit tired. I told her I didn't mean to hurt her in any way, but she needs to understand it's not my job because I'm not her parent. She said she understood that, but she was jealous that her brother, Luke, and Justin got everything that they wanted. I told her that first, Luke isn't her brother but a cousin. Second of all, they don't get everything they want, they work for it. They get good grades, do chores, stay out of trouble for the most part. I then asked her the real reason for why she was acting this way, that she never had a problem before this. She then started crying, saying it wasn't fair that Luke and Justin get everything they want while she gets barely anything. That Luke lucked out in life by being adopted by my husband and I, that she deserves to have what my sons have, that she is my family so I have to take care of her too. I told that she is part of my family but not my child. That I do love her but she's not my responsibility. I then asked her why she feels so strongly about it. She said that even though her parents do take good care of her, she feels like she's just an obligation to them. When she sees how Luke and Justin were raised, she gets jealous because in her eyes we don't look at the boys as an obligation. That we are a family that's always together and always works through problems and helps each other. That even though I stayed in her life and took her out with my family, she always felt jealous that she had to be that one to leave. That she felt second place, and since I took in Luke I should take her in with no problem.
What?
I told her that while I understand her feelings, I'm not going to treat her as my kid. I didn't raise her, but I do love her. That it's her parents' job to get her a car or to help her get one. Then she got more upset, saying that I clearly don't care about her, and she left. I texted her saying that I do care for her but I'm not her mom and it's not my job. After I got home, my husband and I talked and we decided to call my sister. I told her that my family and I are going full no contact. My sister then asked about how I'm going to get in contact with Emily. I told her Emily is almost an adult, she can contact me if she wants. She then asked me if I was going to get Emily a car. I said no. I told her that it's her job, that she's her mother and needs to act like it. Emily needs her to be a mom, and hung up the phone, blocked and deleted her number. The next day I got a call from my mom. She believes that I should give Emily some money for a car if I won't give her one. I told I wasn't going to do that and hung up because all it's going to do is cause a fight. I then called Dad and explained everything, and he thinks I'm right. Then my dad called asking if he could come over on Wednesday. When he showed up, he was visibly upset. Mom gave a big chunk of money out of my parents' retirement fund to my sister.
Oh, hell
This has
no.
caused my parents to have a huge fight, which led my dad to packing a suitcase and staying in a motel for a bit. Now I'm no contact with my sister and mom. I'll be going low contact with my niece for now. Relevant comments. On Emily deserving unconditional love. OP replied, I didn't say she doesn't deserve unconditional love. Luke also doesn't see her as a sister but a cousin. To him, the only sibling he has is Justin. I hope she gets the love she wants, but I can't give it to her. What do you think I should do then? I do love Emily, but I don't see her as a daughter. To me, I have 2 kids and that's it. Emily isn't my child. I do feel for her, but I can't help her like she wants. She's not unwanted. Just because I don't want to be a motherly role for her doesn't mean she's unloved. She's loved by many people that are family and are not. How is Luke and Emily's relationship? OP replied, Luke has an okay relationship with Emily. They have a regular cousin relationship. Justin and Emily had a really close friendship. Luke doesn't think of her as a sister but as a cousin. Justin is the only sibling to him and that's how he feels. He knows what's going on and he agrees with me. All their life they never had a problem with being cousins. This is the first time she called him her brother. Luke doesn't think of her as a sister at all. To him, he was one sibling and that's Justin. Did she specifically ask you to act motherly toward her? OP replied, she wants me to treat her how I treat my own kids. She said she wants my family life for herself. Having dinner all together, going out on the weekend to have a family day, joining us for our yearly family vacation. She wants my husband and I to attend her school things, celebrate her like we celebrate our kids. She wants to come over more, to be an equal to our kids. Overall, she wants to be treated like how I treat my kids.
I understand.
2.5 months
You
later.
had to buy your car and your parents didn't help at all.
About a week after the post, I decided
Privilege
to talk to
issues.
Emily. We decided to meet at my home. I asked everyone not to be home because I wanted her and I to talk privately. When she showed up, she didn't really want to look at me and I asked her if I could give her a hug. She nodded her head and the minute I hugged her she cried. She said she was sorry for how she acted and I told her she didn't need to apologize. I asked her about how her parents treat her again to understand more about what's going on. She told me that her dad treats her well and he tries to spend time with her, but he's busy because he works 2 jobs. While my sister is home more, she usually just keeps to herself and doesn't really like to be bugged. I then asked her if she feels like she's been neglected. She said no, just sometimes they don't have family time that much because her parents argue a lot, especially about money. That
Mm.
sometimes her mom does make her feel like an obligation, but she knows that they do love her. I then asked her about the money my mom took from the retirement fund. She said that she and my sister were going car shopping soon. I then brought up her calling Luke her brother and if she feels that way about him. She said she sees him like a cousin and she thought if she played the brother card I would feel inclined to help her. She then explained that even though they are biologically siblings they are cousins and will always be cousins. I then asked her if she knew how I ended up adopting Luke. She said that she knew and her dad had explained what they did. Apparently my sister sugar-coated it while her dad told her the blunt truth and it was the complete truth that he told her. Luke only sees her as a cousin also, Luke only has one sibling and that's Justin. I then spoke to her about seeing a therapist that we would pay for. My husband agreed. She said she would think about it. I then asked her if she would like to do a fun day out with me on Saturdays. She got excited and said she would really like that. So that weekend we went on our first day out. We went to this restaurant that she's been wanting to try. We had a good time. I then took her to a bookstore because she loves to read and I bought her a couple of books that she's been wanting. When Emily and I were supposed to have our second weekend out I had to cancel because Justin ended up in the hospital. While at football practice he started wheezing a little bit and he took his inhaler but didn't wait the appropriate time. He then got tackled which knocked the wind out of him and caused him to have a bad asthma attack.
Ooh.
This happened on a Friday and Justin stayed at the hospital till Sunday. Emily and I were supposed to go out Saturday and that morning I called her and told I had to cancel before I could tell her why she started yelling at me saying I never cared about her and hung up the phone.
Aw, man.
I tried calling her back but it went straight to voicemail. Then I sent her a text saying that I didn't mean to hurt her but Justin was in the hospital and that we can have our day next weekend. I never heard back from her. I gave up on reaching out to her after a couple of days. 2 days ago, my family and I were out for a family night when my neighbors called saying that they called the cops because someone was vandalizing one of our cars. When we got home the cops were there and it was Justin's car. The car had scratches, little dents, and paint. There are 2 broken windows. My husband and I checked our security footage. You could clearly see Emily and someone else vandalizing the car. My husband gave the video copy to the police and Emily and her friend got arrested next morning. My sister and mom came to my house screaming that I was ruining my niece's life and if I loved her I would drop the charges. My husband has admitted that we don't drop the charges and Justin and Luke agree with my husband. A lot of people have asked Luke's view on everything so I decided to talk to him. He said he's over everything and it's best to cut contact with everyone, even Emily, because she's just like her mom. So we are cutting contact with everyone except for my dad. Relevant comments.
I'll read.
Someone follows up on the first post asking how OP's family could be mad that she didn't get Emily a car. OP replied, "My husband and I make a good amount of money, we're not rich but we live comfortably. When I first started having a relationship with Emily my sister would try to demand things from me especially when it came to money. When I wouldn't give in she'll try to get my mom to make me give in to her, of course that would never work. Most of the time mom would stop when dad got involved. I'm sure my sister told a false narrative of me to her friends and some family members that I really don't talk to. My sister promised Emily a car, she's been wanting a car for a while. When she didn't get one everything went into chaos. My sister decided to save herself by trying to blame me for Emily being upset.
Bleh.
What does your dad think of all of this?" OP replied, "He's upset with Emily but not surprised by her. He agrees to press charges also and says not to back out of pressing charges. I think he's just tired and wants everything to calm down."
Ungrateful, yeah.
One more explanation for why OP didn't cut contact before this. OP replied, "The reason for me having contact with my sister and niece is Justin and Emily went to the same school and had the same classes. Anytime I went to a school event my sister was there. I didn't want Justin to be in a hostile environment at school so I thought having a semi-civil relationship would be best especially when Emily and Justin were making friends with the same people. I didn't want to move Justin out of the school because it's a very good school and he already loved it there. With my parents, we came in contact after my grandmother died and the will was read. That was when Luke was 6. My mom tried to be nice because I was left with 90% of my grandmother's things. My dad actually tried to have a relationship with everyone and he admitted his wrongdoings. This took years to build up, not just a simple I'm sorry and we were good."
Well, having a car is a privilege, not a right. Kids don't know that. They don't understand. They see that someone else has that and they're like, wait, if you have it, I should have it too. You know what I mean? You got S out by your right hand. Nice. I love these so much. I'm so obsessed with these. What do I do? I'm so obsessed with these. These are so good. I was discriminated against my entire life because of my golden child sister. She now tried walking down the aisle at my wedding and I finally got revenge. I love revenge stories. Crazy mother-in-law tried to sabotage my food at my baby shower because she's upset I'm giving birth the same month she's getting married. Ghosted my cheating wife. Did you finish your work? Yeah. Best friend got pregnant by my boyfriend. My family knew it, so I ran from home. Now, after 15 years later, my mom demands reconnecting with my ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend. Now that sounds like drama.
Best friend got pregnant by my boyfriend. My family knows it. So, I ran from home. Now after 15 years later my mom demands reconnecting with my ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend. This is a long story that really started some 15 years ago. It really impacted my 33 life, so please bear with me.
Me
When I
having
was
to clean
18
during
and
the
in my
party where my
senior year of high
homies spilled the
school, I really
22 gallons
believed
of
my
cum
life was
story
on a
in their
good track.
ass. Yeah.
I lived with my parents and 4 siblings and spent
Why would
most
you
of
be
my
mad
days
at your
hanging out with
in-law
my best
giving
friend
birth the
Ashley,
same time you get
18,
married? Because it's
F,
your
and or my
special
boyfriend of 3
day.
years, Kyle,
So it's
20.
unfair that
M.
other
Both
people
Ashley and
planned
Kyle's
around
parents
my
were best friends
downfall
with my
type
parents,
of
so I knew both of them
thought.
since we
You
were
know
in
what I mean?
diapers. We spent holidays together, birthdays and visited each other all the time as we lived in the same town. Ashley's been my friend for 18 years and she truly was the person I trusted with everything. Sometimes our parents would joke that we are connected by the hip as we were together all the time. I've been dating Kyle for the last 3 years. I believed he was the love of my life and the one I would eventually marry. We were quite serious and even talked about getting married after he finished college. He was a sophomore at that point. Although I had every plan on going to university, I was quite content with the idea of being married to Kyle and being a stay-at-home mom. My parents loved Kyle and supported our relationship. I really was happy. I think I should note here that my sister 20F was also dating Kyle's brother 23M and that all our siblings were very close. One day, at the
Wait, I missed some of this.
as we lived in the same town. Ashley's been my friend for 18 years and she truly was the person I trusted with everything. Sometimes our parents would joke that we are connected by the hip as we were together all the time. I've been dating Kyle for the last 3 years. I believed he was the love of my life and the one I would eventually marry. We were quite serious and even talked about getting married after he finished college. He was a sophomore at that point. Although I had every plan on going to university, I was quite content with the idea of being married to Kyle and being a stay-at-home mom.
Happens.
My parents
Hi,
loved
Bushy.
Kyle and supported our relationship. I really was happy. I think I should note here that my sister 20F was also dating Kyle's brother 23M and that all our siblings were very close. One day, at the beginning of the school year, I noticed that Ashley was being very melancholic and detached. After a while of prodding, she told me she was pregnant. I was very surprised because I didn't know she and her boyfriend broke up a while ago and I didn't know she had anyone else like that in her life. I asked her who the father was and she didn't want to talk about it, but in a way implied that the ex was the father. She was absolutely distraught, so I dropped the topic and just consoled her. I was with her when she told her family and while her parents were disappointed, they promised to support her in whatever she decides. They tried to make her share the dad's name but she refused and made me promise to stay quiet. They did not know she had a boyfriend at one point. I was there for her for the next 9 months. I went with her for an ultrasound, doc's appointments. I was there for her when she was bullied in school for being pregnant. I helped her set up the nursery. I was there when she was sick or just felt down. I held a baby shower for her, went shopping with her. I even took some parenting classes with her. We chose names together and she even asked me to be with her in the delivery
That's such
room.
best friend
I noticed
activity.
that the pregnancy was really taking a toll on her emotionally and physically and I tried to support her in every way possible. She was my best friend, always there for me and I loved her. Some 2 weeks before her due date I went to the mall to run some errands and ran into her ex. Although I promised never to contact her, the knowledge of my friend's emotional state sent me into a fit of anger and I confronted him.
Angry.
I gave him a piece of my mind, told him what a piece of shit he was for leaving his ex pregnant and alone and not caring for his unborn child. He was shocked and said that he had no idea what I was talking about. Ashley never told him about the pregnancy and when I told him she was 9 months pregnant at the time, he said that it was not possible for him to be the father as they broke up over a year ago and had no relation since then. I was confused but apologized for yelling at him in the middle of the mall. After that, he became snarky, said some nasty stuff, and mentioned that maybe I should ask Ashley's friend Kyle if he is the daddy. I didn't really think about his words in any way. Kyle and Ashley have been friends their entire lives. We were always very close, because of our parents' relationship, but they never showed any sign of being anything more. That evening my younger sister, 14, F, and I were preparing to have a movie night. I began ranting to her about confronting Ashley's ex and his words. My sister, who is usually very outspoken, got quiet and didn't really respond to anything I said.
She
After a
knows
while,
something.
she excused herself and went to the bathroom. I decided to go and get some snacks and went downstairs to the kitchen and heard my younger sister berating my mother. This part of my memory is really fuzzy as I was dealing with lots of emotions. My sister told my mom about me running into Ashley's ex and his words and told my mom she no longer wanted to hide from me the fact that Kyle was Ashley's baby's father. I was shocked. Absolutely shocked.
Now this is the drama I wanted. Ooh.
I stumbled into the kitchen and demanded an explanation. The
Wait.
fact that Kyle was Ashley's baby's father.
So the
my
mom
younger sister
kept it a
berating me through
secret.
anything I said. After a while, she excused herself and went to the bathroom. I decided to go and get some snacks and went downstairs to the kitchen and heard my younger sister berating my mother. This part of my memory is really fuzzy as I was dealing with lots of emotions.
The cake
My
was
sister
good.
told my mom about me
Right.
running into Ashley's ex and his words and told my mom she no longer wanted to hide from me the fact that Kyle was Ashley's baby's father. I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. I stumbled into the kitchen and demanded an explanation. Both my mom and my sister became white as a sheet when they saw me, and my sister started crying her eyes out. My sister explained to me some things I also learned from other people later, that during the end of the summer break Kyle and Ashley attended the same house party, got drunk, and slept together. Ashley got pregnant and told Kyle, but they were both ashamed and afraid of telling me. They also didn't share this with their parents. Ashley, however, couldn't keep the secret and told her mom and dad, who told Kyle's parents and later to mine as well. This all happened when Ashley was in her first trimester. By her second trimester, all of my siblings, Kyle and Ashley's siblings, knew about this. Everyone, except for me.
That's
I
crazy.
simply cannot explain the way I felt. I was physically ill for the next 3 days and I couldn't speak to anyone. My parents were apologetic but explained that they didn't want to see me hurt or ruin everyone's relationship. I did not speak with Kyle or Ashley, although they bombarded my phone with messages and calls and also came to my house. I refused to see them. At one point Kyle's mom came to our house and my mom allowed her into my room. While I was lying in my bed still ill and just emotionally drained from the betrayal, she tried to convince me to forgive them and how Ashley and the baby need me.
Oh, hell
I said
no.
nothing. 2 weeks later Ashley went into labor. I learned from my parents that she had a hard delivery, she lost a lot of blood and needed an emergency C-section. Kyle apparently was at the birth. I was distraught, inconsolable. Because of the betrayal by both, because I planned to be there and now physically and emotionally couldn't, because I was looking forward to this moment for months. So many reasons. My older sister immediately went to the hospital to be with her boyfriend. My other siblings weren't at home, so I was left alone with my parents. All I wanted was to lay in my bed or cuddle in my bed with my mom and cry all my feelings out. My mom received a call from Ashley's mom. She came to my room and told me that she and dad were going to the hospital. I was perplexed and asked her to stay with me. She said that Ashley's parents need all the support they can get and that we will discuss everything later. I tried to tell her not to go and that I also need their support, but she said not to be selfish and they left.
No.
I was left alone at the house and I just couldn't comprehend what happened in the last few weeks. I couldn't believe that my parent would
watch
go and
movie
support
AI,
someone
sure.
who hurt me so much, while I was also here suffering. Am I really selfish to think like that? I don't know when, but my sadness turned into rage, the kind I never experienced before. In a fit of combined emotions and feelings of betrayal, I started packing my bags and decided to leave home. It didn't take a while, but I started having second thoughts and just sat in the living room feeling empty. After a while, I received a text from my sister. The text said that Ashley gave birth to a healthy girl and that they were both okay. She attached a pic of the newborn and told me they named her Sarah, the name Ashley and I chose some month ago. She sent a second text a while later, telling me that my parents and she were going to join Ashley's and Kyle's parents and going to a bar in the town to celebrate. I don't remember much after that. I think I was just consumed by everything and my memory is very foggy.
Celebrating
I left.
like that?
I took a train and left. I stayed at a hostel in Phoenix for a while. I got a job at a store and planned to finish high school there. My parents, siblings, Kyle, and Ashley tried to contact me. My mom was sending me a panicked voicemail, demanding me to come back. They also reported me as a missing person, but I don't think it went anywhere as I was 18. Anyway, soon afterward I met Dean, 21. He also lived in Phoenix and had a complicated relationship with his family.
Ooh.
We really connected and became friends soon.
New
He helped me a lot
boyfriend.
at that time. I struggled. I had no idea how to take care of myself or how to, literally, be an adult. He introduced me to his
Paying
group
more
of
attention
friends,
to the
helped me
video?
finish high school, and I moved in with him and his friends.
Okay, I will agree that these type of videos definitely numb the mind. So if you can't really think it through, or if you're not really focused on just this, it's easy to focus to like not really get what's happening. So I understand. I completely understand. Don't worry about it. Oh, Shadow Gamer Tim, hi. Thank you so much for the raid. What's happening? Huh? Hi, what's up, readers? My name is Mian. I'm an orange cat. How do I explain this? I'm watching videos of Reddit stories or something like that. But yeah, hi readers, what's happening? What were you doing? What's that? Oh shit. What were you doing, Tim? Thanks for the raid. I appreciate it. You're a drama addict? I can't help myself. It's 4 a.m. You don't need to have your mind thinking right now. Fair. Welcome. You're playing Stalker Gamma? What game is that? What's a Stalker Gamma? I'm surprised you raid me because I'm doing like basically nothing. I'm just like I'm just reading dramatic stories. So if you guys are interested in watching cool cake videos and listening to an AI voice explain someone's dramatic Reddit story, this is your place because I love this type of stuff and very lazy content. I'm on the tea drinking art. Okay, it's just for today because I love this stuff so much. What type of game is Stalker Gamma? Hope you had a lot of fun though. TLDR so far, we're 6 minutes into an 18-minute video. TLDR, this chick has a boyfriend and a best friend, but turns out the boyfriend and the best friend got drunk at a house party, and the best friend got pregnant with his child. So now that the person making the post is finding out, she ran away from home. TLDR. It's a game about oh, I see. Sounds like a scary game. That's not my jam, unfortunately. But thank you again for the raid. I appreciate it. Remember, guys, I'm just doing whatever. And if you need a drink or you need to take a rest, feel free. Thanks for joining. I'm going to continue the video because I need to know what happened. She's currently in Phoenix and met a guy named Dean, which is a new guy. So I think it's a revenge type of plot. Okay, I literally can't help myself. Like, I love this stuff too much.
He helped me
I'm
deal
in love
with
this
my pain.
type of stuff.
I really struggled at one point and also had some regrets. I wanted to see a therapist, but I most definitely couldn't afford it. He was there for me and supported me through everything, and I don't think I would have lasted long without him. We began dating after a year.
Yay!
He inherited some money from his grandpa and decided to move across the country to the big city. Although we weren't together for long, he asked me to go with him. I was a bit reluctant because we both had a lot of emotional baggage and I was still very insecure in my situation, but I did go. We moved, got jobs, and tried to survive. Soon after my 21st birthday, we decided to get married.
Oh, they're 21
it was a crazy,
already.
Spontaneous decision, but we did it. I enrolled in university and the dean helped me pay for it. He himself opened a company that took off and we were able to live more comfortably.
Really?
I was
Just
in
like
uni
that?
and also worked a part-time job to contribute. We had our ups and downs but somehow survived. After uni, I started working in his company and we slowly built it up. When I look back now, I don't think I was in love with Dean when we got married. I loved him, but I wasn't in love. But he was there for me, always, unconditionally, and today I don't think I could love him more.
Aww.
He is the love of my life. We've been married for 12 years now and we have a 2-year-old son.
It's very real to fall in love with someone after having them as your comfort, I guess. I feel like you'd usually be surprised by something like this happening, but I feel like it's a pretty normal reaction. All we need now is a Subway Surfers gameplay on the side, and then we can get that true mind-numbing experience. Okay, the next video is going to be a movie recap, so we'll see. We'll see what video comes up with that. You need the Subway Surfer ones? I prefer the Minecraft parkour ones.
6-month-old son.
That's my favorite.
Sometimes I regretted leaving my family behind, but I just couldn't go back. It was very painful. I felt like my parents chose Ashley and Kyle over me. I did go to a therapist when I was 25 and tried to deal with my emotions. Last year, at the beginning of the pandemic, I received an email from a 14-year-old girl named Evelyn. She explained that she was my niece, my older sister's and Kyle's brother's kid. She knew about me and wanted to meet me. Although I was reluctant to speak to her, we did exchange some emails. Let me note that she did not know what transpired 15 years ago, so the conversations were pretty innocent. We talked about her school, interest, and she talked about my family. I learned I had 10 nieces and nephews.
10?
I also learned that Kyle married Ashley 4 years after I left and had 2 sons besides Sarah. My parents
Kyle marry Ashley just like that? Ashley's the best friend and Kyle's the old boyfriend. Just so y'all know.
continued to have a friendship with Kyle's and Ashley's family, and to me, it really felt like my family continued their normal life, despite me being gone. She tried to talk to me about what happened, but I didn't really think it was my place to explain things to her, so I simply said that relationships change and things happen in life that make us go our separate ways. We continued talking ever so often for almost a year. In her email, this January, she expressed how the pandemic had a big effect on her entire family and how my parents were struggling to keep their house and both my brothers lost their jobs and struggled to keep up with the cost. I was surprised at her knowledge of this as she was only 14, but the hardship was also causing tensions between her parents. I started to deal with a lot of guilty feelings and regrets. I also just had my baby, so that was causing me lots of emotions. I talked to my husband and he was very supportive and told me that he would be there for me for whatever I decide. We are financially stable and the pandemic didn't have a great impact on our finances. We are not rich but are able to live comfortably. After learning some more details and talking with Dean, we decided to help my parents with their house.
Yay!
A week ago, we flew back to my home state. I saw my family for the first time in 15 years. I had so many emotions, regrets, pains from the past, feelings of betrayal. My parent was, I think, relieved to see me. It was just such a weird day. We had a lengthy conversation and agreed to try and have some sort of cordial relationship. It's been so long and I am very awkward with them. Sometimes they feel like strangers. Dean and I spent a week there and we continued to have a conversation, and I truly believe that we were on a path to having a friendly, yet distant relationship. But my mom started insisting I have a sit-down conversation with Kyle and Ashley.
Uh-oh.
She explained that she wants to go back to the way things were. I
Mm-mm,
told
you
her I refused to
can't.
talk to them. Although I moved on, I simply have no ties with them now and don't want to rehash anything with them. I told her I am prepared to try and establish a relationship with them as they are my family.
They
And I
use the
truly
niece to
came to
sign
care
up?
for my
Real.
niece, but that I don't want anything to do with Kyle, Ashley, or their family. I never demanded that they cease their relationship with their friends, but I don't want one. Dean supports me. My mom called me selfishly and said that I simply must try and heal our relationship. I told her I will not negotiate and that it's on her to decide whether or not she wants to have a relationship with me. She said okay. But 2 days later I received a phone call from Kyle's mom. I did not give her my number, and she demanded, I talk with Kyle and Ashley as my return caused tensions in their relationship and their emotional health. I hung up.
Really?
I called my mom and confronted her. Apparently, she gave that woman my number to heal our family bonds. I told her that she is choosing them over me again. She cried and yelled at me that I am selfish and that she just wants her family back. I hung up. It's been days since I spoke to any of them, although my mom and Kyle's mom keep on calling. Although I think I am right and I believe I should prioritize my well-being and the well-being and happiness of my husband, who has
True.
been behind me 100% and even told my mom off, and my
True.
sons, I am starting to have some regrets. I don't know if I should listen to my mom and speak to Ashley and Kyle. I question whether I was overreacting 15 years ago. I am
Probably.
questioning whether I am truly being selfish for not actively trying to repair the relationship. I would really appreciate any advice or opinion on what.
Okay, so like she moved away or she ran away from home at like 16, right? So obviously it was very emotional and she didn't like talk with her parents. Of course she's hurt, but she moved away completely on the basis that she felt abandoned by her parents because they had to be there for Ashley's birth, right? So back then, yes, emotional move, and I understand why she has all that regret, but now they don't deserve. You can't just demand her to
do in
do
this
this type
situation.
of stuff.
Suddenly I am questioning the entire course of my life. I am so lost and I don't know what to do. Update. 2 years later.
2 years later,
My gosh, it's been 2 years since I
she
posted
should just
this.
cut all
A
ties
lot of people
together.
have been
That's what I
asking me for an
thought.
update.
Like
First
if
of
that's
all,
how you're
I
gonna
want to thank all
react
of the wonderful
to
people who have been
to
sending me
your
updates and
daughter
lovely
coming
messages.
back.
I'm truly grateful. A lot of things have happened in the last few years, not all great. Without making these 100 pages long. I never mentioned my little sister in my original post. Her relationship with my parents went downhill after I left home, and she went no contact with them when she was 20. I received her number from our older sister, and although it was awkward at first, it's been 15 years after all, we did start speaking again.
Okay,
She was very angry at me for leaving.
the little sister was a real one because she was the first to feel wrong about not telling her that her best friend and boyfriend hooked up, right?
A lot has happened in her life, and it wasn't the easiest. She has a toddler and a baby of her own, and I have to say that the kids have helped us bond again. She's my best friend and we talk every day. As for my other siblings, I'm in regular contact with both my brothers, although we aren't close. My older sister and I have a good relationship now, but last year we've had a longer period of not speaking. As she is married to Kyle's brother, it was hard for her to deal with all our and their family drama. We are cool now and I have a lovely relationship with my nieces and nephews. I didn't go to my niece's birthday party. It just seemed like it would be too hard for me. Now to my parents. This one is a little painful for me to write, and at the time it felt like I was reliving all those shitty emotions I had at 18. My mom didn't let up with her pestering me not to talk with Kyle and Ashley. Her calls for that continued for months, even after I was home again. It bordered on emotional blackmail. She blamed me for not honoring her wishes for her friendship problems and health problems, and even accused me of keeping her grandbabies from her. Last June I had my daughter, and it seems like that sent her completely over the rail. What I mean by that, 100 plus calls a day, messages every 20 minutes to pester me about
100?
random things, sending me updates about people I never want to know about. When she started pestering Dean, I was done. I was afraid to block her, so I spoke to my father. This was probably the first time in the last 17 years that we had a true heart-to-heart conversation. I was emotionally drained, tired from caring for 3 children, and just over everything. I've probably poured all my feelings and emotions onto him. What happened to them afterward, he doesn't speak much about it. Her calls slowly ceased, and something else must have happened because in August he filed for a divorce.
Ooh.
My father and I are in regular contact, although I don't think we'll ever be back to normal. Mom is devastated. In August her calls became insane, and apparently not just with me. I've changed my number since then, and as of February, she has not been able to reach me.
Yay.
I've been told by one of my brothers that she has problems with anxiety and depression, and lost a lot of friends. I don't really know whether or not she continues to have a relationship with Kyle and Ashley's family. I don't want to have anything to do with her anymore, nor do I want her near my kids.
No right to any
The things she
grandchildren.
said to
Agreed.
me, about me and about my husband, whom she really doesn't know, and after 15 years of no contact, is crazy. Although I regret not having a mom, I feel like trying and fighting to repair the little remnants of our relationship would be a waste of my emotional energy and just pure torture.
Agreed.
As for Kyle and Ashley, I've received some calls from Kyle's mom, as I mentioned in my original post. I blocked her and no other calls have been received from anyone. I really don't know what they are doing or where they are. I've had no contact with them. The only thing that really happened is that in August, when shit went downhill, my Bill, Kyle's brother, brought me a letter apparently written by Ashley. I've not opened it and I really don't know if I want to. I feel like I've moved on from them, but on the other hand, I'm curious as to what she has to say after so many years.
Read
However,
it.
that in itself could bring back bad emotions.
Read it.
I'm doing okay now, with my babies and Dean, who is a real trooper in all of this.
No.
I'm trying to focus on my family, and I really hope that this is all behind me. New update.
Yes.
I have no idea if anyone will see this, but during the last few months since I posted my update, I have received many messages with advice and words of support. I have no way of thanking you, but know that your words truly mean a lot to me.
So did you read the letter
I try
or
to
not?
reply to everyone, but it sometimes takes me a while. A lot of questions have been asked in these messages and I can't answer them all at this time. I plan on updating soon. Just to quickly answer the most common ones. I have not read the letter yet. Soon after updating, I started therapy again and Dean and I decided that it would be best if I gave the letter to my therapist and let him decide when and if I am ever ready to read it.
Oh,
I have not spoken to my mom since the
that's
update.
too
I've
intelligent.
received
I don't like
messages
that.
on Facebook from her
I
and
don't like
Ashley's
that.
mom, which is a first. The latter I didn't even read. I've since deactivated my Facebook for the time being. Neither Kyle nor Ashley tried to contact me via any social media. The only thing I know is that Kyle was asking my Bill for my address or number, but Bill refused them. That's when Ashley gave him the letter. Bill is in no contact with his family ATM. They are separated as per my Bill, but he does not know whether they are divorced or not. Last week my dad was in town. He does not know my address and has never been to my house. For the first time in almost 2 decades, we had an open, honest conversation. I have to admit it was a lot and I was not good for a few days afterwards. But it was necessary. I learned a lot about my mom. A lot of you tried to imply there must have been something in her past to make her the way she is, and the time between them learning Ashley was pregnant and my return 2 years ago. It's a lot to unpack and I'll probably be in therapy for a long time. It's a lot really, so I'll have to write a separate update. Also,
A
my
separate
little
update?
sister, she was not at fault and I never blamed her for hiding the secret from me. She was a teen and she knew it was wrong, but she was put under a lot of pressure by our mom. After I left, her life was hell and our mom was insufferable and blamed her for a lot of things. Again, thank you for your words of support and encouragement.
Good
Lots of you sent
night.
words for Dean as well and he has read them. You are right, he is the best and I probably would not have been where I am today without him.
Dean's a real one.
Please appreciate your families. If they
Find
are there for you
yourself
in good and bad, of
a
course.
spouse like
Call
Dean.
your parents and sibling and tell them how much you love them. In moments like this, we realize how much we undervalue the good people in our lives. Mini update. OP added this comment later. Hello. She was never bullied before really, it started after she got pregnant. Our state is pretty conservative, so it wasn't well received that she was pregnant, unmarried, and without a partner. There was no physical violence.
love these cake
People were
videos.
quite mean and kept reminding her of her mistakes. I don't know if people knew that he was the father. I always just assumed it was because she was pregnant. I've learned from my dad that apparently they weren't hooking up with each other before, but that could be a lie, but apparently she did like him, so it wasn't really just an awkward, drunk one-night stand with just anyone. Knowing this fact would probably kill me back then, but I sort of assumed without being told. Her ex suspected it. They didn't date anymore at the party, but I think he also never liked Kay, so seeing them together like that was a red flag.
Facts.
I wasn't a party animal, nor was she, but they just went that day. I don't remember if they went together or separately, but I'd assume the latter. She did have other friends after all, who enjoyed night outs. The drunkenness part. I really don't remember them being that heavy drinkers. At least I never saw her drunk to the point that she was reckless or had a loss of memory. So I never really believed that part much, but I wasn't there.
You don't need
And
to dig
really,
up
it
this
doesn't
part.
matter.
Give me the
Drunk or
drama.
not, it was a
What happened in
betrayal.
the letter?
I read some of Kyle's texts back then. I never answered any of the phone calls or anything. I never spoke to them after I learned that he was the father. I kinda regret that now. Maybe it would have been more beneficial for everyone if I gave them a good earful, expressed all the pain, and gone no contact after that, but I just wasn't in the right state of mind and I was sick a lot back then. This current letter is from her and I haven't read it yet. At this point,
Read
I believe that my
it.
mom is grieving the loss of a tight family/friendship unit that we had when I was younger and some other relationship. She has yet to realize that none of her 5 kids speak or see her. None of her grandchildren see her. None of us, as far as I know, speak to her. That in itself would be the end for me. I can't imagine what emotional state she must be in. We all agree that we need psychological or psychiatric help.
True.
She refused.
Lots of
Dad and
therapy.
eldest brother tried, but you can't convince someone like that.
That's it? That was not satisfying at all. Huh. That wasn't satisfying. What? Okay, I'm gonna go find a movie recap. That wasn't a satisfying ending. Where was the drama? Now this is why. This is why. This is why it can be a fail for sure. Do you guys want to get a movie recap of a silly movie or like a manga-esque type of movie? Oh yeah, no, yeah. 90% of the posts are fake, but like If they're gonna be fake, might as well give me the drama. Like, yeah. Student clapped all the neighborhood moms movie recap. Or that type. What we feel it. Wait, maybe I should show you guys. Oh, it's a bit cut up. So, there's I just typed movie recap. In the future, 99% of humans on the streets are actually robots. A poor farmer underestimated. He's a wealthy CEO disguised to find true love. Mysterious virus kills 99% of humanity and traps 513 survivors on an island. VR game actually killing people in the future. In the future, showing emotions is illegal and will get you jailed. This is just Death Note. Student clapped at the neighborhood moms. Look at the thumbnail. Look at the thumbnail. Woman is obsessed with torture room and that she'll suffer the consequences. Man invited his ex-wife's to his ex-wife's party, but he senses she's plotting something sinister. Girl ends up trapped in a building for 5 years as the entire earth gets flooded. Okay, what we feeling? What we feeling? I'm like really curious about this one, but maybe I shouldn't, right? I shouldn't be, right? I should chill out. Okay, but like clapping moms, that one looks so funny. It's only 12 minutes. Let's do this one. This one looks so funny. Okay, let's do this one, right? Hi, Suike. Clapping moms, save that one. Nah, I'm just gonna click it. What could go wrong? Oh! Actively trains with adult women to do what? Wait, let me give you the subs. Oh, sorry, you guys have no sound. Here we go. Sorry, let's start over.
Many schoolboys are secretly in love with their female classmates, like the hero of our story. He wanted to demonstrate his skills of male strength, and to improve them, the hero actively trains with adult women to do this. However, the mother of his friend begins to persecute the guy. The woman wants the hero to have fun only with her. This is Mr. Narrator. Today I will tell you what the guy did to get rid of the groupie, and do it with that very friend. Enjoy the movie. At the beginning of the film, Rick thinks about how his life has changed. Then, the hero goes looking for his mother, Lucy. The fridge is full of mineral water. He finds a woman in the living room. The woman has taken a lot of pills. The mother left goodbye letters for her family, even the dog. The guy called 911. A short time later, a police officer and an ambulance arrived. The woman was taken to the clinic. A police officer takes a picture of the lettering on the garage of the house. The mother had written for Rick to feed the dog. Later, the policeman interrogates the boy. He reads the letter the mother left Rick. The woman found out that her friend Pamela Bender was having fun with Rick. The hero worries that her son Billy, her husband, or Nina Pennington will find out about what was between him and Miss Bender. The policeman took the letters and left. A letter to Pamela fell out of the man's hand. Rick picked it up. The guy decided that it was she who told his mother about their connection. The hero remembered the events that happened to him a fortnight ago. It was they that changed the guy's life. Rick stood in the middle of the room. His brother, Steven, walked into him. The guy wanted to find out who did not cover the toilet bowl with a lid. The hero went down to the kitchen. His mother was sitting in the
They
dark.
call him
The
the
woman
hero.
was hungover. She had found out about her husband's infidelity.
Infidelity?
Rick's sister Kristen came home. The girl works as a stripper at a club. She had a fun night. At the house, Rick met his father, Joseph. The man wanted to pick up the training videotape. The guy worked as a delivery boy at Jimmy Leach's strip bar. The man asked him to find one of the bar's female employees cherish. Rick went to the woman's house. She asked him to cover for her. As a reward, the woman showed the hero her melons and played with his balls. After that, the hero ran to visit his friend Billy Bender.
This is so silly.
At the doorstep, he was met by Billy's
Good night,
mother,
Bushy.
Pamela. When Rick entered his friend's room, the guy helped himself to relax. He barely had time to cover himself with a magazine. The guy finished his business and asked his friend for a tissue.
That
The
is so
hero
silly.
talked about his time spent with Cherish.
Huh?
Pamela was eavesdropping under the door. When the guys came out, she asked her son to go to the shop for cigarettes. She sat Rick on the sofa in the living room.
She's
Pamela
looking for
started
some
asking
action
the
too.
hero about his first experience. She offered to teach the guy how to do it. The woman started
hands on
kissing
the
him
thigh
and
is
asked him to
crazy.
pay attention to her girls. They played sports while Billy was in the shop. The next morning,
played
the
sports
hero
while Billy
thought
was
about
in the
how
shop.
his family would react if they found out about what had happened between him and Mrs. Bender. At school, Rick was chatting with his mate Carlos. The guy offered the hero a bet. Rick promised to print out Nina's cave. The hero sealed the bet by shaking hands. Rick went to the washroom to
There's a
freshen
lot-
up. A woman emerged from the stall.
Was bro
A
handing
blonde woman
tissues with
called
the
herself
other?
Saint Lola. She said she would help the guy with his situation and left. In the hallway, the hero saw Nina's boyfriend, Kevin. It turned out that the couple had broken up. Rick decided that
It's
he
time
had a
to swoop
chance with the
in.
girl. In class, the Latin teacher asked Rick to declare the word by cases. Suddenly, the man felt sick and collapsed in front of the desk where Nina was sitting. The principal canceled class because of what happened to the old teacher. Rick approached Nina in the schoolyard. He decided to meet her. The guys drove together to the teacher's funeral. In the car, they discussed music. The hero lied about knowing a
Wait, is that
popular
Selena
musician
Gomez?
who comes to their town with a concert. Rick's car was hit by a pickup truck. The guy went out to deal with the driver of the car. However, the nuns came out of the pickup truck
Oh,
along with Father
I just
Cromwell's.
recognized her.
The man apologized. Nina offered to call the police. However, the priest did not want to record the accident. Jimmy told the thugs about what he wanted to arrange at the bar. Rick came to the man's place. He wanted to get the singer's contacts from the boss. In return, he asked the guy to bring him some special pills. Rick asked Pamela for the car. After patting his cheeks, the woman agreed.
After
Before
patting
going
his
to bed,
cheeks.
the guy saw Lola in his bed. Rick wanted the goddess to suggest how to fall in love with Nina. In the morning, the guy's mother was repainting the kitchen. Rick went to the Bender's house to get the car. At their house, he met Billy's father.
Ooh.
Pamela asked the hero to take her son with her. A friend told Rick that the new Latin teacher had been in an accident. The boys went to pick up Nina. They drove to get a stage pass to the motel where Jimmy lives. In the car, Nina told the guys that she was going to be a preacher. The guys went to the hero's boss. The man said he would give them a pass if Rick would look at his cobra. The guy looked at it. The man didn't give him a pass and closed the doors.
Wait,
Suddenly, the guy saw Rick's
Look at
dad's
his
car.
cobra.
Joseph was having fun with his new girlfriend. Billy's dad was there too. The guys played a joke.
Wait.
Guys went to the hero's balked at it. The man didn't give him a pass and closed the doors. Suddenly, the guys saw Rick's dad's car.
Rick's
Joseph
dad's
was
car.
having fun with his new girlfriend.
Ooh.
Billy's dad was there too. The guys played a joke on them. Rick knocked on the room door, identifying himself as a police officer. As the fathers left the room, Billy took pictures of them. The men noticed the guys. The heroes went to a coffee shop. Rick agreed to forget about what he had seen if the men repaired the dent on Mrs. Bender's car. Rick and Nina said goodbye in the car park. The guy didn't want his girlfriend to be upset that they had missed the concert. The next day, the hero's mother was arguing with her son. Her detective spotted Joseph, Rick, Billy with his father, and two girls outside a motel. The woman had a bottle of vodka in her bag. She was going to leave for alcohol rehab. At a friend's house, he met Pamela and a priest. The woman wanted to have fun with the guy. She took him to her house. At
Oh.
school, Billy was worried that the friend had missed the start of classes. The principal introduced the class to the new Latin teacher, Nun Maria. As the woman
nun.
began to teach the class, she suddenly fell asleep. The boys began to argue about whether the woman would wake up. The boys asked the principal to cancel the class because of the nun's death. The principal
The nun-
called Rick and Billy
The nun died? What is happening in this movie? Who wrote this? What?
into the office. Kevin told the man about the argument between the classmates. When the director is hired from the office, Rick found in his desk pictures of schoolgirls from the locker room. The hero began to blackmail the schoolboys. In the corridor, the guys met Nina and Kevin. The girl told the ex-boyfriend that her friends would escort her home. On the way to Nina's house, the girl talked about why she wanted to become a preacher. The boys came to Rick's house. Steven decided that they were skipping school. Rick called the service center to clarify the information on his mother's car. The manager said that any car would be provided to Rick for the duration of the repair. The boy ordered an Aston Martin for himself.
What?
As he rejoiced at the news about the car, Christine entered the room. The hero's sister was admitted to Stanford. An
Ooh.
hour later, Rick
What?
received
How?
a sports car.
Eh?
He and his friend went to pick up Nina. The boys drove around the city. In the evening, they were stopped by a policeman. It turned out that the car belonged to the bandit Malinauskas. Rick was taken in for questioning. Father Crumman sent lawyer Annette to the hero. The girl
Hot
said
lawyer
to listen
woman.
to her and everything to finish the interrogation. On the advice of the lawyer, the guy confessed that his father works with the mafia. The cops decided to end the interrogation to study the new information. The lawyer asked to take her home. The girl picked up the Aston Martin from the impound lot. In the car, she drank pills that were in the glove compartment. Even though the medicine was not for headaches, Annette felt better. She started stroking Rick's face. The girl invited the hero to drink tequilas. However, the image
Tequila.
of Nina appeared in the guy's imagination, and he refused to spend time with the lawyer. At home, the guy was waiting for his sister. Her friends from the bar came to her. Rick and Billy decided to arrange a viewing of Girls' Melons at home. Under the
A viewing
pretext
of
of
Girls'
Kristen's
Melons.
departure to the university, the hero offered to arrange a party. Billy's mother came to their house. She decided to join in the fun. Rick went to the kitchen to get the woman. Pamela mixed up her pills. She started acting strange. The woman grabbed a
she's
mixer
pilled
and
up.
decided to relax on the floor. Billy saw what his mother was doing. Rick asked,
Bro.
taking the woman upstairs. Pamela started licking her son. Rick called Jimmy.
What the
He wanted
hell?
to help Pamela. A party started at the Stevens house. The guys were collecting money from the guests. Nina came to the guy's house. The heroes went out to a quiet place to talk. Kevin was looking for Nina. Billy promised a classmate a private dance with a blonde. Nina and Rick talked about their families in the guy's room. The girl drew a family symbol on the guy's arm. Rick gave her a piece of meteorite to make lots of wishes. Jimmy came into the room where Pamela was laid out. The woman thought Ricky was going to have fun with her. Pamela opened her eyes. She wasn't going to get any closer to the stranger. Mrs. Bender squeezed Jimmy's aubergine. The man was delighted.
Aubergine.
Pamela left the room. The gangsters arrived at the party.
That's
They
crazy.
were looking for Rick.
Is this
At
AI
that
generated?
time,
This
the
is
guy
a
wanted to
movie,
kiss his
but it's
girlfriend.
AI red.
Pamela came into Nick's room. Malinauskas came into the room after her. He wanted to get to the bottom of what the guy had said to the police. Nina was shocked by everything she saw. She ran out of the house.
I like that she just started
The hero
braiding
ran
her
after
hair.
her. At the house, Nina found out that Rick had bet on her. The girl hit her friend. Malinauskas was arrested. The guy was approached by journalists. Pamela attacked the journalist. Kevin decided to teach Rick a lesson. A shootout
They
ensued.
keep missing
In the
him.
police
They keep
station, Rick
dodging.
saw the director. He was arrested because of the locker room cameras. Also at the police station were Jimmy and Kristen. The guy promised his sister to get her out of jail. In one of the cells was Billy. He asked to use the money he earned to free him. In the next cell, Nina was sitting in the next cell. She confessed that she liked Rick and was disappointed in him. On the way
What?
home, the hero reminisced about his interaction with Nina at the party. At home, his brother and sister were waiting for him. Kristen revealed that Joseph had been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
The phone rang. The girl agreed to talk to reporters for $1,500. Rick was
That's
shocked.
pretty good money.
The next phone call was going to be answered by Steven. However, Rick was faster than his brother. It was the boy's father. He was dissatisfied with what his son had said to the police. The boy hung up. Rick went up to his room. As he lay on the
Bro
bed,
just,
he
like, fucked up
realized
his
that he had
father.
an itch in his pants.
Wait,
Suddenly, a goddess appeared in front of him, bringing his
STD.
thoughts back
It was
to
an
the
STD,
present.
wasn't it?
Rick went to confession. Father Cremens found out that Rick was the reason he was itching in his pants. It turns out that Pamela was having fun with the priest. Mrs. Bender came to the boy's house.
Ooh.
She was itching in her pants too. Rick talked about what happened with his mother. The boyfriend decided to
STDs.
stop their meetings with his friend's mom. He walked Pamela to the door. At the reception desk at the hospital, the hero saw the goddess. In the ward, his mother did not appear. The nurse said that Lucy had been taken away for cremation.
What?
Suddenly, he heard behind the screen the voice of his mother. Apparently, she was on a drip. The woman said she knew everything that had happened to him. She advised her son to talk to Nina. Rick and Carlos ended the argument. The mate decided not to harm the hero because he made his bandit father nervous. Then, the guy went to the lawyer. He wanted the girl to help his friends get out of jail. Outside the prison, they met Pamela. Rick gave Annette the gangster's dirt on her. Nina was volunteering at the hospital. Rick came to visit his mother. In the woman's room were his brother and sister. The hero pleased his sister with the fact that the lawyer arranged her education at Stanford. To his mother, Rick brought divorce papers and her beloved dog. When Rick left the hospital, he was almost hit by a car with chickens. Nina followed the hero. The guy confessed his feelings to her. At the advertising banner stood Lola. The goddess wished good luck to the guy.
Yay.
Rick kissed Nina. At the end of the film, Billy went to work at a strip club.
Just like
The
that?
guy went on stage. He saw his mom. The woman was surprised at the kind of job her son had found. She noticed that her son had a stick in his pants. Billy ran to the changing room to freshen up. Suddenly, a goddess appeared beside him. She reminded the guy of the time he blew off steam in the magazine.
Whoa.
Rate this movie in the comments. Would you want to correct your mistakes?
What's that? What is this movie, bro? I don't know how I feel about that movie. That movie didn't seem that great. I thought it'd be a lot more exciting. Oh. Well, that was... Hi, Raiders. My. You caught me at an awkward time. Good thing we just finished that movie. Let me just inch up a bit. Welcome in, Raiders. Freya, thank you so much for raiding. Welcome in. Hi. Awu raid. Hi. What were you doing? Then let's play Doronko Wonko. What's a Doronko Wonko? I've never heard of that game. Anyways, that's awkward. Cause I was about to end stream, but I could stream for a bit longer. Hi guys, my name is Mion. I'm an orange cat, and we were just watching those like AI movie recaps, and we were just a very wholesome movie. Watching something a little... Okay, I won't lie to you guys, okay? We were watching movie recaps, and this is the one we were watching. Student clapped all the neighborhood moms. And honestly, it was pretty boring. Ooh, Zero, welcome back. Thank you so much for B7. Thank you. Welcome back, my little mignon. I appreciate you. For the second month, I appreciate it. Thank you. So many raids, man. But yeah, I was watching this movie recap, and it wasn't that good. It was a crazy plot, but I don't know. It was aight, I guess. He ended up clapping all the moms and then getting the hot chick in the end. Like, I don't really... It was that crazy. Wow, what a legend. Oh, thanks for gifting Freya a sub, Rice. I appreciate it. Thank you. How was your stream, Freya? I hope it was good. I was about to end stream, but I'll keep streaming for a little bit more. We can watch one of these. I'm just watching movie recaps because I'm yapping today. So, you know, I'm just yapping today. I ain't got that much to do. You know, I ain't got that much. We love a good yap. Did we finish DD2? No. I was gonna do it today, but then I had to do paperwork. That's why we were watching those Reddit story videos, and now I don't have time to play DD2. But I'll try to finish it this week. I hope I can finish it this week. Which one do you guys want to look or watch? 1,000 people wake up trapped in metal boxes and forced to stream 24/7 to survive. Wait, let me click on the channel. Let me see which one's popular. Did we finish the Reddit story? No. I finished that on my own. Go and channel, choose the most popular. Real story. Paralyzed French millionaire hires a young immigrant to take care of him. Malfunction woke up a man 90 years earlier, but he can't stand to be alone. I've actually watched this one already. Children are sent to colonize a distant planet, but their mission turns into chaos. I also watched this one already. I've watched so many of these. Trapped in an empty room with random buttons on the wall, where each sets off a chain of events. The millionaire one is fun. I think I watched that one too. I've watched a lot of these already. Do the trapped guy one. This one? The fourth one? I've never seen this one. Is this the one you're talking about, Rice? The one with the random buttons? Yeah, okay, I'm down. I haven't watched this one yet, so this looks fun.
Welcome back to Movie Recaps. Today I will show you a comedy, fantasy, mystery film from 2009, titled Symbol. Spoilers ahead.
Pretty good?
Watch
Okay,
out and
let's
take
see.
care. A Japanese man wearing very colorful pajamas wakes up in a white, empty room with no doors or windows and no apparent ceiling. When he approaches one of the walls for a closer look, he finds something peculiar sticking out of it, a protuberance shaped like a male member.
Yeah,
After
why is
poking
it
it a couple of
shaped
times,
like a male
he
member?
presses the tip, which causes hundreds of giggling baby angels to come out
Why
of
do
the
you have
floor
to press
and
the
walls,
tip?
staying there only for a
That's
couple of seconds
crazy.
before they go back the way they come. One thing they leave behind, however, now all their members are sticking out of the wall and floor.
That's
This
crazy.
is the phase known as learning.
What?
As he sniffs the finger he used to touch the weirdly shaped button, the man screams in fear, followed by crying out and begging for help from whoever may be around.
Why
to
did
no
he
avail.
sniff it and
He
and
decides
becomes
to start
fearful?
pressing the
What?
various buttons to see what happens, and every time he does, a different random object falls into the room, from a small
What the
toothbrush
hell?
to a big
Imagine
vase.
watching this high.
By pressing the same button again, he is given the same object, and that's how his testing of this concept on one particular button gives him a big pile of chopsticks. His amusement is short-lived, however, when he presses the button next to the chopstick one and a small cart comes out of the wall and hits him on the legs. The next button he presses after crying out in pain transforms into a butt, which passes gas on his face.
Passes
Hours
gas
later,
on his
the
face?
man
That's
has
hilarious.
accumulated a huge variety of random objects in the room, and when he throws the ball at the wall, it presses a button that gives him sushi.
Ooh,
This excites
food.
him since he's been getting hungry, but he realizes that he's missing soy sauce. He asks his captors for it, but as always, he gets no answer, so he repeatedly presses one of the buttons until he has a bunch of sushi in front of him but still no sauce.
You need sauce,
Giving
bro.
up, the man proceeds to eat the sushi, which he finds rather delicious, and once he's finished the last piece, he presses the button for more, getting furious when a bottle of soy sauce finally shows up.
Oh,
After angrily pushing the bottle out of the way,
That's
he presses
crazy.
a different button and gets a pair of old school 3D glasses. When he puts
The
them
soy
on,
sauce
he
came out
manages to
after?
see a baby angel pointing at his member,
He
and the
really
man
played
gets
with the
happy because he
button.
thinks he may have
Facts.
found the answer. However, after pressing that particular button, all he gets is a countdown and a giant butt appearing from above to pass gas on top of him. Some hours later,
Wait,
he's
the
read 5
strength that
volumes of a
came
manga
out.
that he finds very entertaining, but when he presses a button to get the 6th, he gets the 7th instead. Frustrated, he
That's
starts
such a
trying
bitch
other
move.
buttons, which give him 8 and 9 but still no 6.
You need the
The last
sixth
button he tries, though,
chapter.
has an important
volume.
surprise for him. It opens a section of the wall that hides a door behind it. The man celebrates this discovery, but in his excitement, he loses track of which button is the one that opens the exit.
Bro.
He tries one at random and shockingly sees an African tribesman run from wall to wall. The next one makes water fall on his head. The third one turns out to be the one he needs, and as soon as the wall opens, he runs to it, only to see it close on his face. His second try ends the same way,
Just
and it's
press
then he
something
realizes
on the
that the door
button.
stays open as long as the member tip is down, so he
The
starts
member
trying
tip.
out different ways to achieve it.
Just
First,
put a
he
weight
goes
on
for
it.
a runner position, pressing it with his foot. Next, he hits it with a fly swatter from as far as possible, hoping the distance will make a
He's kinda
difference in his
dumb.
running time.
He's about to get farted
None of
on
these
again
work,
fast.
and neither do pulling it with a jumping rope or hitting it with the air sent by a fan.
Hitting
His
it with the
following
air
plan
is
is to
like
get on the
okay.
cart and push it after pressing the button, but after a few tries, he comes to accept he simply can't control it. What he needs to do is find a way to keep the button tip down. He puts the huge vase on top of it, but the button manages to stick back up again, so the man reaches the conclusion that he needs to fill the vase to make it heavier. First, he tries the water button, but it's pointless.
getting
No matter
sore.
how hard he tries to redirect the water, it only falls on him and nowhere else.
It only
His
falls
next
on
attempt
him.
involves filling the vase with sushi, but it becomes so heavy he can't even pick it up. The neck of the vase is also too narrow for his hand to go through, so the man has no other choice but to use chopsticks and remove a bunch of sushi piece by piece. Moments later,
So
once he's
dumb.
removed enough, he manages to barely pick up the vase, so he does exactly that and takes it closer to the buttons. When he gets there, he finds himself having to put down the vase on the floor because he has lost which button it was again, and when he tries
Again?
one, the African tribesman comes out and accidentally bumps into the base, causing it to crack and break in half.
No!
This sends the man over the edge, who, as he freaks out and yells nonstop, finds the right button and begins covering it with sushi.
Oh.
This, of course, doesn't work either, and the little member pops up among the rice. Then the man tries covering the button with tape, followed by tape plus a steel plate, but nothing works. After taking some
What a strong
painkillers to deal
member.
with the pain caused by the door every time it hits him on his back and a nap as well, the man wants to wash his teeth, so he presses a button to get water. It was the wrong button though, and this one reveals a rope falling from the ceiling. This instantly improves his mood because it gives him an idea for a new plan. He opens the door, then uses the rope to swing himself across the room and make it before the door closes. Sadly, when he tries to open the door behind the fake wall, he discovers it's locked. He returns to the room just in time before the door closes, although it manages to hit him on his way out anyway, and in frustration, he kicks the wall, activating one of the buttons and revealing the key
Oh, he
floating
got
in the
the
middle of
key.
the room.
Easy.
Like it happens with the door though, it goes away when the button perks out again, so the
Bro.
man must find a way to keep both the key in the room and the door open.
Bro.
First, however, he needs to find the button again, because he got distracted and lost it. By observing more or less where his foot would have landed when he kicked the wall,
There's
he
like 5
chooses a
buttons
button
there, though.
only to get a dog coming out of the wall to bark at him.
That's
The same happens
terrifying.
with the next button, but luckily, the third try is successful. While keeping his eyes and a pointing hand at the button, the man walks backward and grabs a piece of sushi fish that he takes back to the wall to mark the right button with.
Okay, he marked the
When
button.
he presses it, however, the dog comes out again.
The wrong one?
This time he
bro.
finds the
Don't blow
button
it.
faster and proceeds with his plan. He makes the rope appear and swings on it to reach the different buttons, but it is still enough. As he falls to the floor, he sees a plunger he had gotten from one of the many buttons, and gets an idea on how to solve his little issue.
Okay.
He can use the plunger to touch the wall and push himself farther. After one failed attempt, the plan goes smoothly, and the combination of swinging on the
He's
rope
so
and pushing
extra.
himself with the plunger allows him to press the button key, grab the key, press the door button, and reach the door before it closes. He wastes no time and inserts the key in the lock, quickly turning it, but when he tries to open the door, he finds a nasty surprise. It also
It's
has a separate lock on the top that
it's a
requires
second
3 numbers
lock.
to open it. The man rushes out, getting hit by the door as it closes, and in frustration, he throws the plunger at the opposite wall,
Hitting a
activating the
member.
button that releases the African tribesman. As he watches him walk by, he realizes something.
There's
There
a
are
number
3
on
numbers
his
painted
head.
on his forehead, which must be the combination he needs.
That's
Since the
crazy.
time behind the door is limited, the man goes through the process of doing the whole swinging on the rope and jumping deal 3 times, 1 for each number to be put in.
Oh, smart.
The 3rd time, he stays there and opens the door, which is a bit stuck and he has to push extra hard to open it. When he finally manages to do so, the piece of wall behind him closes, leaving him trapped and without enough room to finish opening the door.
No way.
Devastated, the man sits on the floor and starts crying,
Is there a
remembering
number?
all the fun he had with the objects he had gotten from the buttons.
Aw,
He
had
had
fun.
been locked there too, but at least he had room to move and entertainment, and now he realizes he didn't appreciate what he had while he could. Suddenly, he feels a breeze on his face coming from the left wall. As soon as he touches it, he finds a crack that indicates it's a fake. He wastes no time and pushes the panel open before running out of there, soon reaching a mysterious hallway floating in a pitch-black area. It feels like he spends an eternity running towards an exit, and when he finally makes it to a room, his hair is longer and the colors of his pajama have faded.
What the hell?
This room is
Hello.
also empty and the door he uses closes as soon
There's
as
so
he
many
enters.
members,
But instead of
again.
baby angels, here there are adult ones, who also disappear into the wall and only leave out their members to be
Adult
used as buttons.
members.
This is the phase known as practice. Meanwhile, in a city
That's
in Mexico,
crazy.
little Antonio's family is worried because the father, a wrestler known as Escargot Man, is behaving more taciturnly than usual. His wife thinks it may be because this next opponent is much younger than him, but the grandfather points out that what matters is experience, not youth. Escargot Man is picked up by his daughter's sister Karen on her truck and she drives him to the wrestling ring so he can start getting ready early, which
I'm so
includes
invested,
changing
me
clothes and
too.
praying to the Virgin. At school, Antonio is being bullied by his classmates for betting on Escargot Man, calling him a weak loser. As the time for the match to start approaches, Sister Karen takes her van again and picks up Antonio and their grandfather to take them to see Escargot Man in action.
Let's go.
Karen doesn't stay though, and Antonio and his grandfather find some of the last seats for themselves right before the show begins. The first team that enters the ring are the Northern Tough Ones, formed by Super Demon and Tequila Joe. Then Escargot Man and his partner Silver Eagle come in under the team name Kiss Me A Lot.
Kiss me
Silver
a lot?
Eagle is the first one to fight for his team with a brilliant beginning, but he's soon overpowered when the Northern Tough Ones fight him together instead of one-on-one. They keep gesturing at Escargot Man, asking
not a
him to join the
one-on-one.
fight, but he refuses to do so until Silver Eagle pulls a trick to make Super Demon and Tequila Joe hit
Oh,
each
that's
other,
kinda epic.
allowing him to escape. Escargot Man is quickly overpowered as well. But just when his opponent is about to hit him with a chair, the man in the mysterious room presses a member button and causes Escargot Man to magically extend his neck and knock out both opponents with a hit of his head. In the room, nothing happens, which calls the
Now
man's
that's
attention, so
silly.
he keeps pressing the same button, causing Escargot Man to knock out Silver Eagle,
Yo, that's
the referee,
crazy.
Antonio, and even the bell. Seeing no results, the man starts trying out different buttons. One causes the singer of a metal band to breathe fire above his audience during a concert in Los Angeles. The other makes a Russian magician fail his trick when he tries to make his assistant disappear, and the third one makes a man in China bark at his own dogs.
Bark.
The man is about to give up when he sees some light coming from above and notices that unlike the last room,
golden
here there is
meter?
no ceiling and he can see the angels flying around in the distance. He decides to try something completely new this time. Instead of pressing the member buttons, he will use them to climb the walls. It
Wait,
works, and
he
every
can do
time
that?
he grabs a button with his hands or steps on them with his feet, something amazing on Earth happens, from flowers blossoming to an elephant dying. The highest he goes, the more complex the
How
effects
do you
become.
climb that
It's not
with
only
those
nature
members?
anymore,
That's
there is
kind of
also
impressive.
humanity in both the little and the big things, like a toaster and landing on the moon. By the time he makes it to the top, both the man's hair and beard had grown long, and he doesn't need to hold on to the wall anymore. Now
He's
he can float
God.
as well, just like the angels, and using all his experience gained from the training at the previous rooms, he embraces his role of God and begins choosing humanity's biggest hits on purpose instead of randomly pushing buttons. By the time he's done, he's surrounded by feathers instead of walls, and
Suddenly?
he enters a glowing portal that takes him to the last room. This one has the continents on its walls and a huge member button that the man is about to press.
Huge member button.
This is the phase known as future. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like
I want to know what that one did. He became Jesus by pulling on some wheeze? Yes. This is so goofy. This is so goofy. Okay, well. That's cool. That was a fun one. Last button digs down all the humanity. Who knows, man? Wow, that was interesting. That was quite the trip. That was an interesting movie for sure. Okay, now I want like a manga one. I want a manga-esque type of movie. Hold up. I want something like in the future. Russia, America dump 420 life's prisoners on a deserted island. Plague turns most humans to vampires, and the remaining ones are hunted and farmed. I think I watched this one too. I need a manga-esque one. Yeah. Spoiled millionaire suddenly wakes up in 19th century village. He traveled through time. 1 year is equal to 1 minute of lifetime. A couple adopts a little girl who is not as innocent as she appears. Girl raised by a robot tries to escape. Oh, I also watched that one. Intelligence service trains young people to use their bodies and minds as weapons. I've watched a lot of these. I've watched a ton of these. Man, Rice here is so popular. Imagine how many that's crazy. Coworkers get stuck in an elevator. Coworkers get stuck in an elevator. Did I skip it? Wait, second one from the left on the bottom. Vertical prison. This one, virtual prison, where 1 year is equal to 1 minute of lifetime. Not that into that one. Coworkers get stuck in an elevator, but things turn for the worse as they learn more about each other. You saw that one and you're like, ooh, that's interesting because of the thumbnail, huh? I know how you think, Suike. I know how you think. Oh, you watched it before? I'm regularly tricked by thumbnails and I'm ashamed, as you should. What haven't I watched from up here? I've watched a lot of these, man. I like the sci-fi ones a lot. I'm a big fan of the sci-fi ones. World leaders let aliens control. Let aliens control and mine the planet in order to save humanity. Okay, I'm down. This one looks interesting. Damn, you know a lot, huh? You know a couple.
Welcome back to Movie Recaps. Today I will show you an action, horror, sci-fi film from 2019 titled Captive State.
I don't mind horror recaps because they're not scary. So I'm okay with this.
In the nearby future, Earth is being invaded by aliens. Cities all over the world are losing power and supplies while the governments are beginning to accept complying with the invaders is their only chance to survive. In Chicago, the Drummond family is attempting to flee the city by car. The father is a detective, so when a police officer stops them, he reminds him of the orders they've received. But the father refuses to follow those orders, so he drives back and tries to find a different escape route while saying they need to regroup and fight back. The road is suddenly blocked by aliens, who vaporize both parents but leave the Drummond kids alive.
What?
9 years later, the world has submitted to the aliens' governance and they now are legislators. Humans are conscripted to build closed zones, underground habitats for the aliens with access only granted to and by high government officials. The army has been demobilized, and people are now obliged to help the aliens exploit Earth's natural resources.
I appreciate it.
Everyone is also implanted with an alien bug inside their neck so they can be tracked at all times. The gap between the rich and the poor is greater than ever, police crackdowns have widespread, deportations are now off-planet, and digital communication has been shut down.
Deportations
Chicago has been walled off and is under martial law, so a resistance group called Phoenix has tried to launch an attack on the closed zone, but they failed. However, they've not given up on their mission yet. Unaware that he's being spied on by Commander William Mulligan, Gabriel Drummond begins his daily routine after spending the night being intimate with his girlfriend Rula. As he leaves his apartment, he meets with his friend Jurgis and together they rush out of the neighborhood before some rats can tell on them or the alien drones that follow Gabriel from the sky can see them do anything suspicious. Meanwhile, Mulligan is looking at the newspaper and finding a seemingly normal ad that uses the Phoenix Group's logo, which clearly upsets him. After circling it with a red marker, he takes his car and visits a brothel with the same logo on its walls. There he meets with Priscilla Scott, who gives him a box and tries to be intimate with him, but he says he isn't able to do it so he can leave now that he has what he's come for. He goes to the police headquarters, where he has a whole board of clues that say the Phoenix Resistance Group has not been neutralized, contrary to what the public has been told. Mulligan tells his partner Kermode that Phoenix has gone underground and is now communicating through the classifieds, but Kermode remains skeptical and thinks Mulligan is chasing ghosts. In an abandoned building, two members of Phoenix meet, Charles Rittenhouse and Patrick Ellison. Charles shows Patrick the classified and tells him training is over and the team will go in tonight as per number one's orders. Afterward, Patrick meets with a masked informant to give him the news, saying he trusts him. Gabriel arrives at his job in the Data Reclaim Center, where he must take memory cards from phones, upload the information they have to the central system and then destroy them. After noticing a coworker is stealing some of those cards, he takes a lunch break, where he meets with a member of Phoenix that hands him a hand-rolled cigarette containing secret information. When they're leaving work hours later, the woman that stole the cards is found thanks to the bug in her neck and taken away by the special force. After seeing an alien ship fly away above the sea, Gabriel meets with Jurgis inside an abandoned building, where they're hiding a boat they can use to escape the city undetected. Jurgis has also acquired some guns, which angers Gabriel because they could put them in some serious trouble. As they argue and fight over the cigarette, they hear a police siren arrive, so Jurgis runs away and Gabriel tries to do the same after hiding the gun, but Mulligan manages to find him anyway. He makes Gabriel enter his car and gives him some food, mentioning his dad used to be his partner so he has a responsibility to that. After failing to obtain information about Phoenix from him, he lets Gabriel go as he reminds him to choose the right side. Afterward, Gabriel goes to see Raul Casillas to sell the cigarette, but instead, he's thrown inside a van and put on a collar to block the tracker bug. Raul takes Gabriel to Wicker Park, the area where Phoenix's first attack happened, and tells him to enter an abandoned building. In there, his brother and Phoenix member Raphael Drummond is waiting for him, because he isn't dead as the news said. He has removed his bug and is living off the grid now, allowing him to continue working on Phoenix's plans with more freedom. He gives Gabriel money in exchange for the cigarette and turns down the offer to escape together because he wants to follow their dad's wish to regroup and fight back. After sending Gabriel away, Raphael goes to another room and puts the cigarette paper on a carrier pigeon that flies away before he burns every paperwork clue he had with him and shaves off his beard. Mulligan continues to spy on Gabriel as he goes back to his apartment to gather his things and tell his girlfriend they need to leave because there's going to be some trouble. Since Rula stays skeptical, he explains that he saw his brother and there's a plan brewing. He also tells her about the boat. All this is heard by Mulligan. Rule suspiciously insists on making him stay, so Gabriel decides to leave her behind and escape on his own, but as soon as he makes it outside, Mulligan is waiting for him. This makes Gabriel realize Rula has been helping the officer spy on him all along. Gabriel runs away and takes narrow pathways or climbs roofs so that Mulligan must depend on the tracker to follow him. When he enters an abandoned parking lot, the noise he makes wakes up a bunch of alien drones that start chasing him, so Gabriel enters the guard booth and puts on the blocking collar Raoul had given him. This instantly causes the drones and Mulligan to lose his location. While Mulligan updates his board at the station, Patrick receives the pigeon with the information and takes it to Ivan Leviev, a hacker that uses this intel to access Chicago's surveillance system and the deployment patterns of law enforcement units. Their target is Deputy Mayor Robert Watts, who will be assisting a unity rally at Soldier Field that night. Now the plan is officially starting. Patrick gives a kid a coin to call Charles and tell him to post one more ad in the newspaper. From there, the message starts spreading to the people chosen to be the drivers during the mission. The first driver, Michael Posner, sees the ad and shows it to a radio DJ that plays a special song, which is heard on the radio by the second driver, Evan Hayes. Evan takes out his dog for a walk and leaves it outside the garage belonging to the third driver and Raoul's co-worker, Anita Holder-Lean. The three drivers visit Harrison Ma, a surgeon that removes the bugs from their bodies and puts them on rats that are released afterward. After the procedures are done,
Wait, I'm lost. Wait, I'm so lost. Sorry, guys. I need to go back a bit. I blinked out for a bit.
The three drivers visit Harrison Ma, a surgeon that removes the bugs from their bodies and puts them on rats that are released afterward.
I see.
After the procedures are done, Patrick visits morgue attendant Nelson McCauley, who gives him bugs from deceased people and special plates for the drivers to keep the bugs inside their mouths. Meanwhile, Raphael meets with priest Edward Gunn, and together they take the last church chalices to a woman that accepts them in exchange for an alien explosive device she salvaged from a wrecked ship.
Why does it look like that?
It can become invisible and is made of organic materials so scanners won't detect it, but first, they need to fix it. Thankfully Patrick knows how, and he successfully gets it to work before handing it to Raphael, who will be in charge of taking the explosive into the stadium.
Oh, it looks
After
like
the
that.
drivers put the bug pellets in their mouths and everyone is given a suicide pill to swallow in case of capture, the group leaves together with their last coordinator, drag queen Daniel Larkin. When they make it to the stadium, Raphael, Edward, and Larkin get inside while Anita and Evan wait in the parking lot. Patrick is at the office with Ivan, guiding them through the communicators, and Mulligan is watching the whole show at home on TV. Mayor Watts gives his speech and leaves the public singing the new hymn to meet the alien legislators that are now arriving. He's using a different exit from the one Phoenix has been waiting at, so Daniel rushes after him and distracts him with chit-chat to give Raphael time to arrive and put the explosive on Watts' shoulder. When he finally comes closer to the legislators, the bomb goes off. Patrick sees Watts' tracker disappear from the screen and gives another coin to the kid so he can alert Michael to get ready. Mulligan sees the broadcast has been suspended and opens the box Priscilla has given him, finding a phone inside. At the stadium, people have started to run away in panic as more alien ships and the police arrive. Edward is shot, but Daniel manages to escape with Anita. Raphael has no choice but to escape on foot, but his path is blocked by one of the aliens, who chases him into a parking lot. Raphael hides inside a car and dodges the alien's claws until Daniel arrives and hits the creature with a fire extinguisher before removing the armor covering its face, leaving it to die while he and Raphael get away in Anita's car.
Okay, you can just
In
kill
the
them
meantime,
like that?
Gabriel has come out of hiding to try to escape the city as well, but he finds Jurgis' boat has been lit on fire, so he retrieves the gun he hit it earlier and puts on the blocking collar before leaving. Mulligan meets with Police Commissioner Eugene Ego, who tells him to drop the case and let the aliens' off-world hunters take care of it before boarding a special elevator to meet with the legislators underground. Afterward, he visits Priscilla to tell her he can't protect her anymore, but she replies she has faith in him. They have one last dance together before he leaves. The special forces, led by Mulligan, arrive at Phoenix's neighborhood and start raiding buildings. The residents throw away any possible clues and hide where they can, but most of them are captured and asked about the Drummond brothers. When Jurgis hits one of the officers, he's thrown on the ground to receive a beating, so Gabriel shows up to defend him and gets caught as well. Meanwhile, Ivan is at the subway station waiting for the train, but he gives in and calls his wife to tell her he's doing this for the sake of their child. His wife passes the phone to Mulligan, who had been expecting his call, and asks him to tell them where his friends are going. Raphael arrives at the bus station, where he sees Daniel has already boarded a bus. Anita is having trouble getting inside in time because of long waiting lines, so she cuts in to pick up a kid and help him pass through the revolving door without arousing suspicion. She and Raphael board a different bus from Daniel's and they're both about to leave when suddenly power goes out, indicating the alien hunters are here. As Mulligan arrives at the station as well, Daniel is captured by the hunters. Anita leaves her seat to help him, but Raphael drags her back before the hunters can see her. She has no choice but to watch how Daniel swallows his pill and dies on the floor of the station. Claiming this isn't over, she decides to try again. She gets off her seat and jumps on the alien, who vaporizes her on the spot. Raphael uses this distraction to jump on the hunter as well, and he's thrown out of the bus, where he gets ready to also swallow his pill, but Mulligan shoots him and captures him before he can kill himself. At the precinct, Mulligan interrogates Gabriel, who asks for a lawyer. Mulligan points out those days are behind them and that he didn't need a warrant to burn the boat either. Gabriel still refuses to work for him, so to convince him, Mulligan takes him to see Raphael, who has been chained up and beaten. He asks Gabriel not to accept to work for Mulligan because he's already dead anyway, but Mulligan promises Gabriel that he'll make sure Raphael stay alive if he accepts the job, so Gabriel does.
Aww,
now that the police roundups are over, Gabriel is Mulligan's only connection to Phoenix, so his job will be to deliver a message to them. Gabriel is given the newspaper ad Mulligan had circled with a red marker earlier, and is told to take it to the place he'd usually visit when making deliveries. Gabriel goes to see Raoul, and the police track his bug while he's taken away in the same van as last time, watching the city descending into chaos on the way. Raoul drops Gabriel at Patrick's office and is threatened by the kid with a gun, but mentioning Raphael gets him out of it. Patrick is skeptical of his presence, but he accepts to help when he sees the newspaper clip and takes him to see Charles in the same abandoned building. Charles recognizes Gabriel as a student he used to have and accepts to take him to see number 1, since they're supposed to carry their orders until the very end. Charles takes Gabriel to Priscilla's brothel, and as soon as he steps inside, the police go after him. When Gabriel makes it to Priscilla's room, he's surprised to hear she knows his name, but there isn't time to talk. The cops break into the room and shoot Priscilla on the spot.
Wait, why?
As Gabriel leaves the building, Mulligan and Kermode arrive at the crime scene, and Mulligan lies when Kermode asks him if he knows this place, saying he doesn't. While Mulligan covers Priscilla with a blanket, Kermode notices various details that don't make sense. Her gun was empty, and she kept history books in a room used just for paid intimacy. When Mulligan points out there is only one picture on the wall, Kermode removes it and finds a microphone with a wire that he starts ripping off the wallpaper and following it until he finds a hidden room behind a closet. Inside, there is a computer, a recorder, and a pile of cassettes. The setup belonged to number 1, aka Priscilla, not the police. A couple of hours later, Mulligan reports to the governors and the legislators, who will be asking him questions through interpreters that are connected to the closed zone.
Leader.
He tells them all details behind the Phoenix group that they found on the computer, proving a national network and detailing the names and jobs of each member, whom Priscilla would send the information to after recording it in her room. Charles was in charge of communications, Patrick worked on operations and used to be a Marine, Raoul had materials and transport, Ivan was the one that hacked into the police's surveillance, and Harrison was a medical student that developed the method to remove the bugs. But now that they've disposed of their number 1, all these rebels have killed themselves before they could be captured too, so Mulligan declares the Chicago network neutralized. The aliens ask more about Priscilla. Mulligan tells them she used to be a teacher and she's been off the grid for 9 years. She became a prostitute in order to have access to intel. She would groom politicians and convince them to divulge classified information, and Mulligan plays a tape to prove it. There are many governors' voices in the recording, but most importantly, Commissioner Ego is there as well, passing information to the rebels unknowingly. Ego leaves the room in shame, and when Mulligan points out their chain of command had been compromised, the aliens declare him acting commissioner and order him to go down to the closed zone. Surprisingly, Raphael is allowed to live, but he's deported off planet, and Gabriel watches the alien ship take him away with clear hurt in his eyes. Mulligan finds him and makes him get in the car, but when he points out Raphael is at least alive, Gabriel says everything has been pointless because the plan failed. However, Mulligan tells him perhaps the plan was to fail before and gives him the memory card of the phone Priscilla had handed him in that little box before dismissing him. Gabriel sneaks the card into his workplace by hiding it in his mouth and puts it in the machine to review its contents. He finds a video of his baby shower, where his parents are spending time with most of the members of Phoenix. Mulligan is there too, and he's introduced to a coworker of Gabriel's mom's, who turns out to be Priscilla. The recording ends with Mulligan telling Gabriel Todd he has a big family and that the future is his, and Gabriel takes it as inspiration to carry the torch of Phoenix. But first, he deletes the video instead of uploading it to the database and destroys the memory card. The police throw Mulligan a party to congratulate him for his promotion, but he leaves early, not being in the mood to celebrate.
Yeah.
Moments
All his
later,
friends died.
he goes through the standard procedure to be admitted into the closed zone. After being disinfected and given a mask, Mulligan enters the elevator as the invisible substance of the powerful alien explosive envelops him, indicating he is part of Phoenix and that the whole plan had failed on purpose so he could have access to the legislators and deliver a fatal blow right on their faces. The closed zone in Chicago is successfully destroyed, and this inspires.
Wait, what? Wait, I'm confused. Sorry. Hold up. What just happened?
To be admitted into the closed zone. After being disinfected and given a mask, Mulligan enters the elevator as the invisible substance of the powerful alien explosive envelops him, indicating he is part of Phoenix and that the whole plan had failed on purpose so he could have access to the legislators and deliver a fatal blow right on their faces. The closed zone in Chicago is successfully destroyed, and this inspires other resistance strikes and protests to break out in major cities all over the world, because like Raphael had told Gabriel, if you light a match, you ignite a war. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.
Wait. What was the closed zone? What? What is a closed zone?
Watch out and take a different escape route while saying they need to regroup and fight back. The road is suddenly blocked by aliens, who vaporize both parents but leave the Drummond kids alive. 9 years later,
totally
the world has submitted to the aliens' governance and they now are our legislators. Humans are conscripted to build closed zones, underground habitats for the aliens.
Oh, underground habitats for the aliens.
With access only granted to and by high government officials.
I see.
The army has been demobilized, and people are now obliged to help the aliens exploit Earth's natural resources.
I see. Okay. The closed zone is underground tunnels where the aliens' overlords live. Basically, all the cities were locked down. I see. Okay, one hit was all it took. Not bad. I like that one. I like this movie. This one was a nice one. I'm a big fan of this one. Yeah. Alright, that's my last one for now. Because I gotta go sleep. I was gonna end stream like an hour ago. But I got raided. So I didn't want to end completely. Nice, really sad. Yeah, it's sad, but it's hopeful for the future at least, right? So it's not the worst. So, you know. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. So much. Let me find someone to raid in the meantime. But if you haven't already, I recommend you join my Discord if you want to know when I'm live. And make sure that you... Sorry, one moment. Join my Discord when you want pings. If you want pings on when I'm live. Follow me on X/Twitter. If you'd like to, I don't know, look at my tweets, I guess. If you're subbed and you want to support further, I recommend Patreon. Otherwise, that's about it. I usually stream. I'm just gonna say it now. I'm probably streaming starting from 7 p.m. from now on. From the previous 6 p.m. I just cannot stream on time for the life of me because I'm kind of bad at it. If you guys couldn't tell. I will be rating. Let me just see who do I follow. I'm gonna raid your gym entertainment time. I'm sorry. I'm so busy these days. Work has been a bitch. University has been a bitch. Everything's been a bitch, and it's been horrible. So, I really hope everything gets better later on. Okay, I will be rating this, I'll be rating Sierra. They're playing Content Warning. I played a bit of Content Warning and it was fun, so you guys might have fun watching them. It's very funny, rewatching that stuff. Forcing you back into office, bless your soul, Suike. I hope you can argue with them some more and stuff, yeah? And yeah, guys, if you're going to sleep, have a good night. But if you're staying up, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Okay, bye-bye. See ya, guys. Bye-bye.